Today on the LA Food Podcast, Dave Beran is one of LA's most accomplished and ambitious chefs. You know him from his beloved Santa Monica bistro, Pajo Lee, and his more recent tasting menu, magnum opus, Celine. You might also know about his storied past running Grant Achatz' game-changing restaurants, Alinea and Next in Chicago, but I promise you, you've never heard Chef Beran give an interview quite like this one. I sat down with him at Celine on a gorgeous summer afternoon as the team around him was getting the wheels in motion for another impeccable service. I was floored by his frankness and candor in discussing topics like the challenge of stepping into a role you're not ready for, the difference between an intense kitchen and a toxic one, and how he honestly feels about Celine failing to earn a Michelin star in its first year. Honestly, it's one of the most high-octane, warts-and-all conversations we've ever had on this podcast, and I can't wait for you to listen to it. But first, part-time co-host extraordinaire Karen Palmer is with us to talk about recent eats in Ojai, what she's working on lately, including a piece on a shockingly good pizzeria in an even more shocking location. And in Chef's Kiss Big Miss, we discuss Food and Wine's LA Snub in its latest Best New Chefs list, which LA restaurants made the cut on the New York Times 2025 edition of its 50 Best Restaurants in America list, and how we feel about the latest trend to take LA restaurants by storm. A reminder that the LA Food Podcast is part of the Acquired Taste Media Network. Be sure to listen to our sister podcast, Taqueando with Bill Esparza. This week, Bill spoke with legendary TV host Patty Hinich. You're not going to want to miss that one, and please consider leaving both of our shows a review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, I'm your host, Lucas Hervodio, and without further ado, it's time to chow down. The LA Food Podcast is presented by The Lonely Oyster. Unwind at The Lonely Oyster's Echo Park Night Watch. Did you know that every night is industry night at The Lonely Oyster, dear listener? Stroll in after 10 p.m. nightly for a one-of-a-kind experience designed for the night owls and hospitality pros. Indulge in $12 handshake cocktails, expertly crafted liquid chef concoctions, delicious late-night hot bites, and chef's choice dozen oysters. More than just a place to unwind, The Lonely Oyster warmly welcomes industry professionals, providing a space where like-minded individuals can connect, relax, and enjoy the camaraderie that comes with the late-night scene. Whether you're looking to kick back after a long shift or simply enjoy the vibrant atmosphere, late night at The Lonely Oyster is the perfect rendezvous for those who appreciate good company and great food and drinks. Don't miss this nightly affair and let the good times roll at The Lonely Oyster. Welcoming back to the LA Food Podcast, the most illustrious New Jerseyan to grace Hollywood since Tony Soprano. It's Karen Palmer. Karen, how you doing today?
Wow, that is some intro. Thank you so much. I'm doing great. How are you?
Has anyone ever called you that before?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I have gotten the Kevin Bacon of LA Food, as you know, but
there you go. Yeah.
Never Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
I'll take it though.
Hopefully a fewer murders under your belt than Mr. Soprano, but yeah, you never know. Both icons in your own right, of course. Well, welcome back, Karen. We're really excited to have you on this week. Before we get into the food, I have to do a quick Bravo check-in. Let me start here. Are you a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City fan?
I am. Salt Lake City is up there with Beverly Hills as my favorite, my favorite edition of the Housewives. So yes, I'm very excited for them to come back.
You just said it. They're coming back next week. I couldn't be more excited. I'm low-key thinking we should do a RHOSLC spinoff pod. Are you down?
I'm totally down. I mean, give me some Mary Cosby, some Meredith Marks, bring it. I'll be there.
Have you ever noticed how bad the food looks on that show, by the way?
Food on most of the Housewives shows looks pretty bad.
That's fair.
Like, I don't know that a lot of them are the best. I don't know that they all have the best palates. Let's put it that way.
They do for alcohol, that's for sure.
Lots of alcohol, and they're great television, so who cares?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just think the Utah one, the SLC one, is particularly funny because you got like Lisa Barlow, who I think considers herself like the highest class person to ever exist.
Totally.
And then anytime she like organizes an event, it's like, oh, here are some pokey nachos.
Totally. Yes. Well, and yeah, the whole, the thing with being a Mormon and having a tequila brand is interesting too. But hey, what do I know? I'm not a Mormon, so I don't know.
Yeah, shocker, neither am I. By the way, Mrs. Barlow, if you ever want to come on the pod and talk about your tequila brand, we would be honored to have you.
Please, please come talk about it.
We would both do that interview, Karen. Have you had any good food of late?
Well, I was just up in Ojai this past week and had some really great food up there. I popped into the new Hotel El Roblar, ate at their restaurant, The Condor, which was delicious. Really enjoyed, there's a new barbecue joint up there called Joplin's, which is the chef from The Duchess, who used to be at Tallulah's in Santa Monica. So he's doing kind of a traditional Texas-style barbecue technique, but mixed with other, like Burmese and Asian flavors. So it's really delicious.
Oh, yeah. What kind of food is The Condor? Because I remember hearing about El Roblar's opening. We actually had the chef and owner on last year announcing that it was going to be opening. What kind of food are they serving?
So it's like cow Mexican, kind of like some wood-fired stuff, like fish tacos, really nice like shrimp, like a Mexican shrimp cocktail, that kind of like light seafood heavy, stuff you'd want to eat after sitting by the pool all day at a very nice hotel, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was delicious. So
that sounds super pleasant, actually.
Yeah, it was really nice.
I love Ojai. Yeah, every time I'm up, every time I'm up there, I do unfortunately go to like the same 3 spots. Oh, I did actually peep on your Instagram stories that you had Pinion for the first time.
I did. It was really, really good. I just popped in and had like a little pie, like just a simple marinara pie solo at the bar, but the tomatoes were delicious, like thinly shaved garlic, like Goodfellas. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And then, yeah, it was just very charming, great service, loved it. So I'm a fan.
That's one of the spots I hit every time I'm in town. Even if like we've already had lunch and have a dinner planned, I pop in for an afternoon pizza just because I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, pizza can be a snack.
Yeah. Rebrand pizza. Okay. Pizza is good any time of the day. And if there's anybody who knows that, it's Karen.
You can have pizza anytime.
For me, I was hosting my parents in town. They don't come to town very often. I don't think my dad had been to Los Angeles since like pre-pandemic, actually.
Oh, wow.
And, I had like a litany of places I wanted to show them, but I had limited amount of time. So in 48 hours, I had to plan things strategically. I took them to Rafi's place because they were staying in Glendale, and that was just a great way to like kick off the weekend. And they also live in Switzerland, so there's not a ton of like there are like plenty of multicultural restaurants in Switzerland, but certainly not to the degree we have here in Los Angeles. So that was like my number one goal, like
Definitely.
Take them to places that they could not get in Zurich. And so we started at Rafi's place. Not a ton of Persian food popping off in Zurich and its outskirts. Then we went to Cafe Telegramma the next day for lunch, just because my dad is like the biggest slut for avocado toast. And I just knew like if you're going to get an avocado toast.
And in LA. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You got to bring them to a place where they're going to do it well,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's the place I chose. We went to Budanoki for the first night dinner, which is one of my favorites. So I always like to show it off to out-of-towners. And then the second night's dinner, we ended up at Birdie G's in Santa Monica because they wanted to go do a little stroll by the ocean.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a great mix.
You know what's funny about Birdie G's is I purposefully did not tell them what the food was before we went there because I believe like Birdie G's has branded itself as like Jewish Midwestern comfort food, and that's a hard sell to like Italian parents. So but when we got there and like the appetizers hit the table, we got the smoked trout dip, we got like they brought this beautiful pork terrine to the table, there was a great Caesar salad, just like all around my parents were blown away, and I was like, Hell yeah. But this is why I didn't tell you beforehand.
It's so good. Yeah, exactly. No, I love the like the pickle plate there. It's delicious.
Yeah, the crudité. I forget what they call it. The relish plater, I think.
The relish plate, thank you. Yeah, it's so good. I could eat that all the time.
Well done, Chef Fox. Yeah, it was good. And then we headed up the coast to Pismo Beach area to meet up with my sister and her kids. And that was the one night my mom cooked because, our house just isn't big enough for her to like cook for us really. That was probably my favorite meal of the week. She brought you'll appreciate this. She brought over from Switzerland these like packaged pizza crusts, not pizza, pizza.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they're like shelf stable, but they like heat up really nicely. So she just made a bunch of different toppings and just like fired off these incredible pizzas for dinner.
Nice.
And I'm like, we should have pizza crusts available at the grocery store.
Come on, Ralph's. You got to step up your game.
Yeah,
Come on,
I Trader
Gelson's.
Joe's or Trader Giotto's.
Yeah,
Yeah, come on,
exactly.
Gelson. No, seriously.
Yeah, Gelson's at least.
Maybe, hey, idea. Maybe we could get rich importing them.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that sounds delicious. I mean, what a nice family trip.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was like Fish and Family. They both go off after 4 days, and it was about 4 days, and
Exactly. And then you're done.
yeah. So it was a perfect amount of time. Love you, mom and dad. Just kidding. They'll never listen to this.
Exactly. Love that.
Now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, the part where you dazzle us, Karen, with what you've been working on lately. I'm actually going to name this segment, What Karen's Been Working On Lately. Cue theme song.
I love that. That's very like Watch What Happens Live asks, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We just need some like graphics to go with it. It would be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the articles actually that I mentioned the last time I was here, but it took a while to come to fruition, was about this place up in Buellton called Giorgio's at Parkway, which is a pizza place in a liquor store. They've got like their own like kind of speakeasy style dining room in the back. And it's just funny because like there is signage for it, but I feel like you could just drive by and not even know it's there.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is like the food was much better than I expected it to be at this, just kind of like a random Italian restaurant. And not only that, it was like pizza, pasta, they had antipasti, you could get sandwiches, like entrees like chicken parm, like just a huge menu.
Wow.
The more hilarious thing about this story, though, is that after so many attempts, I was not able to track down the chef slash owner. At a certain point, I was like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm just writing it anyway. So there we go. So the article is out there in the world for people to see. And apparently, I think they were happy with it because they've been like reposting it on Instagram, even though I've still never actually talked to the chef. So whatever. It's fine.
That adds to the mystique of it all.
Exactly. Like, who is Giorgio? Where is Giorgio? I have no idea.
I have a theory there is no Giorgio.
There might not be a Giorgio.
Yeah.
Giorgio, yeah. Who knows where he is?
So are we talking like red sauce Italian, or was it more like small plates Capri Club vibe?
More red sauce, like very good pizza, like a chopped salad, fried squash blossoms, stuff with ricotta and burrata. Actually, one of the pastas that we had was like very, very good. It was basically like a spicy rigatoni with shrimp. I mean, nothing like it's going to change your life
Yeah.
necessarily, but it was all like very solid. And again, it's more just like the charm of being like, I'm eating in the back of a liquor store and there's like a whole dining room built out back there. It's kind of wild.
I love that. I love unexpected places for restaurants.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I can't think of too many like other Italian restaurants that I would actually want to go to in that neck of the woods.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are a handful up there. I just think it's like, I don't know. I'm so, as you may know, I have my favorites up in that area, which are like Bell's and Barlacote. So it's like, it's always just fun to,
Huh.
discover another place for like a more casual kind of simple dinner.
Yeah.
Pretty hilarious that it's in a liquor store.
Well, thank you for unearthing that gem. I'll definitely add it to my to-do list next time that I'm up there. And this got me thinking though, like, obviously your love of pizza is legendary, and you wrote a great article in SF Gate last year. I think it was last year. Oh my God, how time flies.
I think that might have been probably like a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Okay, we'll call it a year, about how LA or California is the most exciting pizza place in the United States right now. I'm sure you didn't get any hatred off of that one.
Yeah, no, not at all.
For people who are listening in LA, but feel like they've got a pretty good handle on the LA pizza scene. What about outside LA? What are your 3 favorite pizzerias in California?
Outside of LA, well, Truly Pizza down in Dana Point. I mean, close because it's Orange County, but it's not LA technically.
It counts.
I think they do like a grandma pie and just kind of a thin crust pie, and I think both are outstanding. Also, just use like super fresh ingredients. They've been getting a lot of accolades lately. Like they were on, the top 10 pizzerias in the U.S. from that organization that does all that ranking.
50 Top Pizza, that whole thing.
50 Top Pizza. Thank you. So I would say them. I really like Flour and Water Pizzeria up in San Francisco. Like those guys have been working with dough for a long time, so they know what they're doing, and like it's like a fun fun vibe. They have great cocktails. I'm trying to think what my third would be outside of LA. Actually, I'm gonna go with another San Francisco place. There's a spot called Jules Pizza that just recently opened a brick and mortar, and they were in pop-up phase for a long time, but I believe, I would have to double check on this, that the head chef and owner was at like Tartine for a long time, and working with dough and pastry and stuff there. So like just beautiful, like Neapolitan style pizza, some really fun topping combinations as well. So those will be my non-LA shout outs. I mean, Giorgio's was great, but those would probably be my 3.
It's a tough list to crack. If I were to say my 3 outside of LA, but in California, first of all, I got to give like a sentimental shout out. I don't know that it's quite my top 3, but a sentimental shout out to Del Popolo in San Francisco, if they're still open.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's still around. Yeah.
I just remember some like truly magical like Neapolitan pizza nights there with friends, and like I remember it was also at a time when there wasn't a ton of Neapolitan pizza in or anywhere in California.
Right.
So that's a special one for me. Pinion in Ojai, we've already mentioned.
That is a delicious one, yeah.
Tribute down in San Diego is another one I love. But I think my favorite one outside of LA, Bettina in Montecito.
Oh my God, how did I not think of that? You put me on the spot, Luca. No, I love Bettina. And I love I actually have gone to Bettina many times and not even eaten the pizza because just everything there is so good. Like the salads, the antipasti, their pastas, everything is like just really dialed in. So yes, also a big Bettina fan. Sorry guys, I love you. I just went blank for a second. I was like, ugh, outside of LA, I ate so much pizza here.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Bettina. I was like, she's going to say Bettina. There's a lot happening. There's a lot. That's why you wrote a whole article about it. What else is going on?
Well, so I am working on a travel and dining feature about Ojai, just because of the Hotel El Roblar reopening, some new spots like the barbecue place that I mentioned, and highly likely coming up from LA.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like, I think Ojai has obviously been a food lover's destination for a long time, but it's kind of like coming even more into its own with all these new restaurants. So I'm working on that. I have a couple of other like LA specific stories coming out, including one this week that's not really food focused, but it's on the effect. I'm not really like a sports ball person, so this is kind of funny, but it's about the effect that Shohei Ohtani has had on like the tourism economy here in LA.
Oh, wow.
Known as the Ohtani effect, because the number of Japanese tourists coming to see Dodger games has just grown exponentially. And, they've even changed the menu offerings at Dodger Stadium to offer like a chicken katsu sandwich and,
right.
a bunch of other things to kind of like give, give the Japanese tourists a taste of home while they're here. So it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. You know what it gets me thinking? I've noticed like this has been happening for a few years now, but I feel like I've just been seeing more press releases and like articles about this, like Japanese-based chains, whether it's ramen chains or sushi chains, like opening locations in Los Angeles. I'm wondering if they're just like, hey,
Yeah.
we're seeing the influx of tourism. Otani is there. Let's open in LA.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, like the number of Japanese tourists coming to LA was always pretty high.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah, it's like something like 80 to 90% of them come to LA and go to a Dodgers game while they're here. So it's like, it's a huge,
Wow.
yeah, it's a huge draw. So it's crazy.
Well, interestingly, LA, I am quite a sports ball person, I'm ashamed to admit. And you might be able to tell also by the high number of sports analogies I make on this podcast. But Los Angeles Football Club, LAFC, just signed a South Korean player, probably the best South Korean player of all time, Heung-min Song.
Oh, wow.
And I know South Korean tourism is going to go through the roof. So I'm interested to see what that does too for,
Yeah, that's very cool.
tourism, Korean food. Obviously, we got so much of it here too already, but
Yeah, but even like at the stadium, you never know if there might be something new coming in there or something.
yeah, bibimbap coming to BMO Stadium any day now.
Exactly. Any day. We love to see it.
We do love to see it. We truly do. Karen, I was thinking like, I'm always really jealous when you post your stories of yours and Farley Elliott's quote unquote, like brainstorm meetings, which just seem like fun dinners and lunches. And I was like, to be a fly on the wall or to like actually get to pitch a couple stories at those. And I thought, hey, why don't I just prove my worth right now and just like pitch you a couple story ideas?
Sure. I would love some pitches, please, by all means. Go.
All right, I got two for you today, okay?
Okay.
One is, as you know, this year I'm eating 100 burgers in 365 days in LA. And I've already reviewed Tommy's, the hamburger chain. But one thing that's really stuck out to me as I've been, looking for burger places is that there are so many different Tommy's like knockoffs.
The knockoffs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It'll be like TOMY' or like,
Yes.
yeah, Thomas's. Like they're all over the place.
THOMYs, like they get really creative with the spellings, right? Sometimes they're like a silent G at the start for no reason.
Borrowing from the Jelena family.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, Travis Lett, is that you?
Are you making a chili burger? What's going on?
It would probably be fire, and it would for sure have nori in it. Basically, I was just wondering, like, what is the story behind that? Like, why Tommy's? Like, why did Tommy's inspire so many knockoffs? Are they knockoffs? Like, have there been lawsuits? What's the best one? Are there any good ones? Like, or are they just all like cheap imitations? That is a very interesting topic for me.
No, I love that. And Farley and I have talked about it a little bit because he is kind of the two of us, he is the more burger literate.
Yeah.
I love a good burger too, but no, we've talked about that. And yeah, I don't know what the story is behind it, but I love that idea of like digging into like how all these knockoffs came about and yeah, how they're allowed. I guess they're probably just allowed to exist because they don't use the name.
Yes.
Tommy's,
Very purposefully. Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Love it. Okay. Approved.
Okay, great. One pitch. Great. I look forward to seeing it. Second one, it's also slightly copyright related. So you might recall me, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I worked on the bid to bring the Olympics to Los Angeles.
Right.
And one thing that like really stuck with me about my time working for them was that the Olympics in general are super like protective of all of their intellectual property, right? But to a degree where like if they see like a torch, an Olympic torch with no anything, right? They crack down on it and they don't care if it's like, a massive corporation using it or a tiny small business. In fact, one time a buddy of mine just who like happened to like be super into the Olympics started a podcast called Tim Loves the Olympics or something, right? And he, the front cover of the podcast was like this, goofy illustration of him in like a USA hockey jersey with the torch. And me thinking I'd do a nice thing, I sent it around the company Slack being like, hey, look, my buddy Tim loves the Olympics, and he made a podcast about it. I get, not like 2 minutes later, I get a Slack message from the company general counsel
Oh my gosh.
being like, hey, you're going to have to tell Tim to take his podcast down or change it severely
Oh my
because he's got like 8 copyright infringements in there. This was like a podcast. I'm sure at the time Tim had just launched it. He probably got like 30 plays on his first podcast,
yeah.
right? I hope he's grown significantly since then, but like,
Did he end up changing the art?
no, I didn't tell him. I was just like, let the man
You're
live.
like, I'll let him hear from the lawyers.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just like, ugh, I was like, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Then I've almost got to like accept responsibility for outing him, right? And then like, I was like, what are the chances they actually go after him? So far, they have not, and it's still called Tim Loves the Olympics, so that's good.
Well, yeah, it'll be so. Yeah, maybe it would be interesting to see when it's getting closer to them coming to LA and people start like promoting the fact that like the Olympics are going to be here. Like if,
Yes.
let's say like Le Sordids does like a pizza box that has like Olympic rings on it. Yeah, it'll.
Oh no. Oh, that is a hell no. Yeah, that is a lawsuit happening.
Tommy, don't do it.
Don't do it, Tommy. Don't. I know you want to. Don't do it. No, but the reason I bring this up is because there's actually one exception that the International Olympic Committee has allowed to happen, and that is Helm's Bakery in Culver City.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
If you're driving by, on their logo, they have the Olympic rings there on their logo, Helm's Bakery. And that's like a well-known story. It's like they're allowed to use it. And that's just, they won like a lawsuit in like the 50s or something, basically, which said like, they're allowed to use it. They somehow came to the same realization of the rings before actually like the IOC had a copyright on it, something like that. But I was driving to my soccer game in Boyle Heights on Sunday, and I drove past this small donut shop called Olympic Donuts, and they had the rings brazenly on their logo. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, but I was like, that's interesting to me. I'd be interested to know, because obviously the Olympics have been in LA twice, 1932 and 1984. Like, I'm sure they're not the only ones.
Well, here's the thing. I think, and again, we'd have to fact check this. I think Helms was involved in the first Olympics.
I think you're right. Yeah, yeah.
So that might be how it was like some kind of loophole that they still get to use it. But again, we'd have to do some
Reporting.
Googling. We'd have to ask the engineers. But yeah, that is wild. And like I said, it will be interesting to see once, in a couple of years, like if people start trying to use that imagery, like what happens to them.
Yeah. I mean, but basically the idea is like, what are these restaurants that are still using the Olympic logo? What is their story? Like, what is their connection to it? And like,
right.
Are they in danger as the IOC comes to town, Yeah. So that's the pitch. It's a little half baked right now, but there's a seed of an idea there.
like a loaf of Helm's Bakery bread, maybe. It's delicious bread. I'm not making fun of the bread. It's delicious.
Yeah. I'm like, did you just call their bread raw?
It didn't. I love you, Helms.
I want to go to Helms. It looks amazing. I haven't been since they've reopened.
Yeah, it's very cool. Let's check it out.
All right. Okay, so I'll keep working on those pitches for you, Karen. That's all I got for you today.
But you got one approved for today.
Okay, good. That's good. I'm batting 50%,
Exactly.
Shohei Ohtani would be proud of that, I think.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we got a pretty lengthy interview today with Chef Dave Beran of Pajoli and Celine. But before we get to Dave, are you down for a quick round of Chef's Kiss Big Miss?
Always. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Here we go. Food and Wine dropped its annual list of best new chefs, and for the first time since 2020, no Los Angeles chefs made the cut. This is obviously a big miss, but my question for you, Karen, and a little bit of a curveball since it's not actually a chef's kiss or a big miss, is are there any LA chefs you think could have been in with a shout this year?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, obviously there's so much talent. I would go with Miles Thompson from Baby Bistro. I've been a fan of his for a very long time. Even before he was at Michael's for a long time, but even before that, he was at a restaurant called Allumette. And I just think he's so creative, so talented. his food is a little esoteric, but super delicious, and I love what he's doing at Baby Bistro. So that would be my personal pick.
That is a great shout, and actually, that's deeply tied to our next question that's coming up in a little bit. If I may submit a name or two, I would say that Dan Rabble Wongzi of Budanoki could, coming back to one of my favorite restaurants. I think that what he's doing out there is super interesting, and he's got a great story to back it up. And I just think like I've never had a bad meal there, and I just think I don't know. I don't know that there's. Obviously, I have not eaten at every city in the United States, but I struggle to think that there's someone tying, story and experience and doing something new to the degree that he's doing and at the level of technical execution that is able to please everybody from my parents to the most critical food snobs in Los Angeles. So I think that that's special.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then my other shout is Ellen Ramos of Santa Canela, the bakery in Highland Park. It's a modern panaderia, and it's been making a lot of noise. It only came to my mind when I looked at who had won in the last few years, and I believe a couple years ago, Hannah Ziskin of Quarter Sheets was on the list.
She was definitely on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just got me thinking: are there any bakers doing anything interesting? And Ellen came to mind. So those would be my two submissions for F&W's consideration.
I think they would appreciate those. And also, I wanted to say, I really do like that they're now recognizing pastry chefs and bakers.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, they weren't. Actually, I think it was Khushbu Shah who first started doing that, with Hannah and with a couple other people. And it's chef doesn't have to just mean savory. So I do really appreciate that part of that aspect of the list now.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and I gets me thinking about the James Beard Awards, and obviously they're two separate categories now. And I understand the value of that because you're able to shout out more people in semi-finalist lists and actual finalists. But it's sort of like best comedy and best drama at, the Golden Globes. It's
right.
It'd be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Who falls into which categories. Yeah, totally.
Oh, you get it. You get it. All right, moving on to the next one. We both won that round. The New York Times dropped its annual list of America's 50 best restaurants. It's broken down by state, and the California section includes 3 LA shouts: Baby Bistro, which you just mentioned, River of Travis Lett fame, who we've also already mentioned on this podcast, and Maureen Nozomi. As a reminder, the 2024 list included Camellia and Azizam. Karen, is this LA representation on this list a chef's kiss or a big miss?
I think it's a chef's kiss. I think it's a really, 3 very different restaurants. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Miles Thompson. I think what Travis Lett is doing over at River is, really interesting, and it's extremely delicious. I was excited to see that there were so many California restaurants on there, because there were a couple of Northern California restaurants, but actually with the addition of Lilo in Carlsbad, Southern California got a much bigger kind of piece of the pie. So it was kind of cool to see, SoCal as a whole really get recognized, which is exciting.
That's actually interesting. I'd be interested to track how that's changed over the years that they've done this list, to see if the SoCal, NorCal has been relatively balanced, or what's happened. But yeah, I mean, just further proof that SoCal is very much superior to NorCal right now.
We're just dominating. Okay. What are your thoughts on the list?
I have to dig. I mean, honestly, the one thing that struck me as odd, right? Just because you got a list of the 50 best restaurants in America, and I understand including, 1.5 Japanese restaurants on there from a Los Angeles perspective, because I do think we have some of the best Japanese food in the United States. I'm saying half because River is obviously not a traditional izakaya, but it's, modern and pulls influences from various different places. I thought it was a little strange that there's no Mexican representation.
Yeah, that's fair.
That there hasn't been for a couple years. I was expecting maybe a comal from Fatima Juarez to make the list. Just because, I mean, if you think of where Mexican food and Central American food, frankly, thrives in the United States, it's Los Angeles and California. And I could have seen Fatima making the list. I could have seen Chef Jose Olmedo of Simone making the list, which I think is a little underappreciated. So yeah, those would be my humble recommendations. But overall, I would give it a chef's kiss.
We'll submit them to the New York Times editorial board and see
For
what they
consideration.
say. For consideration.
FYC.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should start putting up
Yeah.
billboards this time of year in New York with our recommendations in FYC.
Totally. For restaurants. Yep.
All right, moving on to the next one. Friend of the pod, Gab Chabran, writes in LAist that he believes that Long Beach is currently the most exciting food city in Southern California, citing its independent spirit, affordable rents, and a wave of chefs returning home to cook with creativity and freedom. From Michelin-starred Heritage to Colombian-inspired Selva, Pan Dulce innovators at Gusto Bread, Cambodian-inflected street eats at A&G Seafood Shack, and the community-driven dinner series Got Your Back, the city showcases a diversity and inventiveness that sets it apart from trend-chasing LA. In Gob's view, Long Beach isn't trying to be Silver Lake or Highland Park. It's carving out its own lane and thriving because of it. Karen, is Gob's take a chef's kiss or a big miss?
I'm going to give him a chef's kiss. Partially because I wrote a similar story a few months ago, which is not to throw shade because it was actually a different story. It was more about Long Beach becoming, more of a travel destination with some new hotels, but also the dining scene was a very big part of it, and how it has so much character and so many, exciting new places and people who have been there, for decades doing just delicious food. So again, I'm a huge fan of his work and I will give it a chef's kiss.
I'm a big fan of Gob too, although I gotta say, the LA shade is out of pocket, my friend. And also there's a little bit of homerism here, just because I know that Gob happens to reside in Long Beach, so he.
But he also very much acknowledges that in the intro to the piece. So I mean,
he does.
Yeah.
And he's very good at doing the whole tongue-in-cheek thing. In fact, I think last year he said Whittier is LA's most exciting taco city or something like that, and he's from Whittier. So it's very much in keeping with Gob's style. So I'll acknowledge that. I do like that he said Southern California. He didn't go as far as to say California,
right.
But
Yeah.
it's understandable. No,
it's a bold statement, but it's a hot take.
It's a hot take. Just to be controversial, I'm going to give it a big miss, but I love you, Gob. But actually, this was a fascinating piece. Everybody go read it. All right.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Moving on to the next one. Eaters Jaya Soxana reports that Mexico City-inspired restaurants are spreading across the U.S., with LA playing a key role thanks to spots like Lost Rooftop and Cafe Tondo that channel CDMX's mix of street food roots, bold cocktails, and sleek design. From elevated masa programs and inventive takes on tuna tostadas to pink-green tiled aesthetics, Jaya places the recent trend in the same category as the trends we've seen in the recent past, including coastal Italian and the Tulum aesthetic best embodied by the ubiquitous rattan lampshades. Karen, as a restaurant trend, are Mexico City-inspired restaurants a chef's kiss or a big miss?
I mean, I'm going to go chef's kiss because Mexico City is so delicious. I'm just giving out all chef's kisses today. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, so positive today.
But so positive. So unlike me. But no, I mean, the food is delicious. Like she writes in the article, the aesthetic is really exciting and delicious and beautiful. And yeah, I mean, I say why not?
Yeah.
I'm all for it. So
I'm okay with this trend. I'll tell you why. From a design perspective, unlike the Tulum restaurant,
well, the Tulum thing has been overdone. Yeah.
Really, it was cool once, and then it was wait, you're doing it too? And then I feel like the Mexico City inspired aesthetic to me just means good design. They just have good design there. I feel like, yes, there's certain things you could point to, like green or soft pink tile, Cafe Telegrama has, for example. But overall, it's just cool, sleek looking stuff. So I'm just okay, if restaurants are just going to look cool, that's fine. And food wise is more interesting. Is interesting to me because I feel
it's harder to pinpoint. Like I feel like what Cafe Tondo is doing is so different from what like an Etra is doing, right? Etra is literally Italian, but it feels like Mexico City inspired in terms of design. So that's harder to pinpoint for me. But overall, I think it's a trend with staying power because it's based on like good design as opposed to just like trend chasing to me.
Yeah, I agree. So that sounds like a chef's kiss. All right, great. Cool.
It's a chef's
We agree.
kiss. We're so positive today.
positive.
Only
Good
Gob
for
has
everything.
earned a tepid big miss from me.
Right.
All right, I think we're gonna. Oh, actually, okay, one more for you.
Okay.
We're gonna skip the last one,
Okay.
but one more for you. The New York Times' Tejal Rao penned a beautiful review of Atelier Kren in San Francisco, delving into the restaurant's evolution over the years, but really attempting to paint a nuanced, clear, vivid picture of what the restaurant is like today. My question for you has to do with the headline, however, which is, this is one of San Francisco's most expensive restaurants. Is it worth it? Now, the only mention of price I could detect in the review was right at the end, where Rao writes, since it opened, Miss Kren has built on the old argument that chefs can be artists, that food can be art, and that currently a tasting menu for one without drinks can be worth $400. Other than that, though, price doesn't appear to be a major focus of the piece. Karen, bit of a leading question for you here, and feel free to disagree, but is the Times' distillation of Rao's nuanced review into a headline clickbaity enough to make an influencer blush, a chef's kiss, or a big miss?
You know, I have kind of mixed feelings about this one because working in digital media, like I'm obviously very aware of clickbaity headlines, and the desire to get, eyeballs on your stories. So like I understand what they were going for here. That said though, and first of all, I want to say it's such a beautifully written review. As you know, I'm like Tejal's #1 fan. She's just an outstanding writer. Felt like I was like there with her at dinner. It was like just a beautiful story.
You're number 2 because I think I'm number 1, but that's besides the point.
But that's true. Actually, we didn't even talk about your food writer top 5, but whatever.
Wait, we're getting to shitty Yelp review. We're getting to shitty Yelp review in a minute.
So, no, but here's the thing. I feel like even though the headline is very much, focused on the price, I do think that the entire piece is basically arguing that yes, it is worth the price, right? So it's like, because the way that she describes the whole experience and the artistry that goes behind into the food, like, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm like a mid, like, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this one. Because I think
if you're like in Gladiator, it's like keep him alive for another round, but like don't let him go and don't kill him.
I'll keep Phoenix. I'm like, I've got this sideways thumb, but I'm a little, I'm kind of 50-50 on this one.
I mean, I'm just going to give it, look, I understand it too. And I shouldn't speak because I literally post videos all the time where I'm like, is this the best burger in LA? And I do that like 3 times a week. But like, I just like think like.
We all do it, Luca. We all do it.
I know, but it's like hold yourself to a higher standard here, New York Times. Like you're not the LA Countdown, like the piece was so much more about like maybe it could have been something around like, is Atelier Kren's like evolution working or something like that, or like something that is still like gripping and intriguing enough where you're sort of like, okay, I'll bite, because you could be led to think like the Thomas Keller pieces that have dropped, like, oh, another chef is kind of like biting the dust after having experienced so much success for so many years. But I understand why they did it. I just feel like it kind of short shrifted the review. I mean, and I also feel like if I am the restaurant, people read headlines, you know what I mean? And like, you can get as glowing a review as you want, but ultimately like, how many people are actually going to read it as opposed to just gloss over the headline? And I feel like this was such a positive review.
Yeah, but I actually kind of disagree. I feel like that headline is going to make more people read it.
I think it'll make more people read the entire piece for sure, like as a whole. But like, if you're just looking at impressions and people who are going to gloss over the food section, like, I don't know. I would be interested to see the analytics.
Yes. Let's have lots of tests for it.
New York Times analytics team. I feel like we're asking a lot of the New York Times on this podcast.
We are definitely.
Okay, so we ended on a bit of a tepid note on the last one, which is good because it was too much positivity for me. Okay.
I know. next time everything will be a big miss. I promise.
Great, great. I look forward to it. I have a shitty Yelp review for myself, which I'd love to share with you, but it sounds like maybe you have one for me too.
Well, I mean, so recently you came out with your like top 5 LA food writers, and I did like how you made it like a basketball team. That was very smart.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I don't disagree with your picks. I think they are all insanely talented journalists, and I follow all of them, very, very closely. But your sometimes co-host was not on the list. It's kind of fucked up, Luca.
It was. It was. I do regret it.
Like warming the bench. It's not.
No, I actually listed the bench, and you weren't even on that. So,
Wow.
no, well, look. That list was very, very specific because it was a basketball team. I was trying to put people into like very specific basketball positions, and it just so happened that you didn't strike me as being able to play any part on that particular court. But guess what? There could be a sport where you are the star player, Karen. So next time we'll make it a hockey team.
Okay, sure, Luca. I played basketball in high school. Okay.
You did? No way.
Yes. that just rubbed more salt in the wound. That's okay.
Hey, if I had known that, maybe that would have changed everything.
Yeah. Maybe a lacrosse team.
No, look, that you're our favorite, and that if I put you on the list, everybody would have been like, obviously, come on. So, I was just trying to keep the people guessing.
That's fair.
All right.
That's fair enough.
But
I will accept that.
you're more than within your rights to give me 1 star for that. But wait till you hear this. So
Okay.
I went to the Oasis concert on Sunday night, and
As did like all of Los Angeles, apparently, except for me, but that's cool.
seriously, I was like really upset. Like I saw a bunch of people I knew like post stories about it, and I was like, wait, why did you not tell me you were going? I actually went alone because my wife is not a big Oasis fan, or just a huge concert goer in general, unless it's like a very like specific artist. I'm a big Oasis fan. I really wanted to go. I bought the tickets as soon as they dropped, and I was looking forward to it. I like going to concerts by myself. It's great people watching. But I wore a soccer jersey, and as I do a lot when I'm out in public, and I got a lot of comments from the like myriad of British people there who like recognized the team and like wanted to like ask me like, oh my God, are you from that town? Like, are you a real supporter of that
Right.
team? And every time I had to be like, no, I'm just a jersey collector. I like this team. I respect for them, but like it's not my team or anything like that. And I got so like, and every time like the British do, they give you a bit of shtick for it, right? Like, or you're just a poser, or just a bandwagoner, or whatever. And by the end of the concert, as I was walking away from the stadium, because I usually walk from the Rose Bowl back to Old Town, and it turns out a lot of people do that. And I got asked a question by a gentleman with a northern British accent, and I was just so fed up, and like a couple beers in, and I was like, I put on a British accent.
No, stop it.
I was like, yeah, I'm from there, man. Like, yeah, from there. Yeah, huge Portsmouth fan, and just started like making up an entire history for myself about how I grew up in this port town in England.
Did he buy it?
I don't know, unclear. But the thing is, like, the really embarrassing part is that I started this thinking it would be like a minute-long interaction. Turns out they were walking in the same direction as me from Rose Bowl to Old Town Pasadena, a 36-minute walk. I had to put on this charade for 36 minutes of me with a fake British accent convincing this man from Gillingham that I had spent an idyllic childhood in Portsmouth, England. I don't know if he bought it. I think by the end of it, he was a little suspicious. But I did it. Yeah.
Well, good. So wait, are you giving yourself 1 star?
I think you have to decide how many stars I earned for that.
Oh man. Well, I mean, that's a lot of effort. So I'll give you 2. But also, I was thinking, like, if I was in that situation, which I would not be because I would not wear a jersey out, but I probably would have done the other like super lame thing and like bought a concert shirt and
Yeah.
just changed my shirt
Yeah.
just to stop getting questions. You know what I mean? But
If you saw the merch line at the Oasis concert, I don't think you would have done that.
Yeah, true. And the shirts were probably like $500, but whatever.
Oh yeah, and everybody was wearing them. I want to stand out. I'm a peacock. You know, come on, Karen. Yeah.
Well, you got some attention, so congrats.
I sure did. I was expecting more positive attention, but that it is what it is. Anyways, Karen, it's been a delight as always. You crushed it. You won the game. You dazzled us with stories. It was awesome. Everybody go follow Karen if you don't already. We'll put the link to her stories in the show notes, and we'll be right back after the break with Chef Dave Beran. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Luca.
Dear listener, I made a deal with my wife. She let me start a food podcast and eat ungodly amounts of noodles, pizza, sandwiches, and more under 2 conditions. One is that I never utter her name. The other is that I find ways to be healthy outside of my work in food. Being the fantastic partner I am, I found a few ways to up my health game. I exercise almost every day. I try to sneak in salads for lunch whenever I can, and I only ever snack on healthy foods. The macadamia nut has become an essential part of my daily routine with the best omega-6 to 3 ratios in the nut game, 8 times better than pistachios and 20 times better than cashews. At houseofmacadamias.com, they've got a bunch of different macadamia products that you can enjoy, like savory and sweet snack packs and chocolate-covered snack bars. One of the problems with macadamias I've found is that they can be expensive, but I'm solving this for you, dear listener, because as of today, all you've got to do is head to houseofmacadamias.com and use code LAFOOD to get a 10% discount on a healthy snack that also happens to be delicious. So what are you waiting for? Head to www.houseofmacadamias.com/discount/LAFood and go nuts. All right, who do we have the pleasure of speaking with today?
All right, I'm Dave Beran. I'm the chef owner of Pajoli and Celine in Santa Monica.
Well, because this is primarily an audio medium, can you describe to our listeners where we are today?
Yeah, we're at Celine, my new restaurant. It's about 7 months old, tasting menu, much more high-end. It's a sister restaurant to Pajoli, which is the bistro down the street.
On Main Street.
Yeah, Main Street in Santa Monica.
Well, I got an icebreaker question for you, Chef. Famously ran a marathon before clocking in for a shift, I understand.
I ran 9 of them before clocking in.
Wow.
Well, no, 3 of them were out of town, so
Okay,
the other
so
6 were before work.
Right before work.
Yeah, marathons in Chicago. The Chicago Marathon was on Sundays.
Yeah.
And Alinea was open on Sundays.
Yeah.
And so the first marathon I ran was in 2007. And I love that you brought this up. Like, I feel like everyone's forgot about this. Yeah, so I looked at Ackett's like 2-3 days before, and I was like, hey, chef, is there any chance I could have Sunday off or leave work early Saturday? And he basically looked at me and said, I'm dying of cancer, and I'll be here on time. And that was it. That was the end of discussion. So they let me come in a little late. So I finished the marathon at like 11.
Yeah.
I think I got to work by 2.
Wow.
And then
that's not a lot. I've run 7 myself. You have been beat by 2, it sounds like.
yeah, but I'm sure you ran them a lot faster than me. So.
I don't know about that. We can talk times after we stop recording. But 3 hours for recovery before work is not a long time.
Yeah, and the first time I did it, I was a mess. Like, you're delirious. You don't know what's going on. And but then Mike Nagrant, who is a writer in Chicago, wrote a story about it. So then the next year, I'd signed up for the marathon again. And people started asking. They're like, "Are you gonna run? Are you gonna come to work afterwards?" And so then it went from like something I had to do to something that I didn't really want to do, but then I felt obligated to do. So that's why I ran the New York Marathon, so I didn't have to go to work afterwards.
You had to commit to the bit, basically.
Yeah.
As an avid runner myself, I got to ask, what are your routes around here?
Oh God! Since having 2 kids, my running has diminished rapidly. I used to. I think now I've signed up for the LA Marathon twice and not run it. I'm a little above fighting weight at this point.
Yeah.
So now my goal is just to hit. I mean, I'm trying to get back into it, so I don't really have any good routes. I do. I live in Venice, so I just go through Venice along the water and back out.
Worst places to run. I
Yeah,
guess.
right now it's like, how do I get from water stop to water stop without dying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But
I
I have I need that 10th one. I'd really like to run LA this spring.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I haven't run a marathon since I left Chicago.
Yeah, LA is a good one. There's one part of the marathon which is notoriously hellish.
Yeah.
It's the part where you are basically just crossing the 405
Ugh.
in West LA.
Okay.
And you got to go under the 405, and there's a slight hill that takes you to Brentwood. It's not, if you're driving it, you're like, this isn't a fucking hill.
Sure.
But as you know, when you're 20 miles deep.
Well, it's like, have you run the Chicago Marathon?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is maybe 300 feet of elevation.
Yeah,
the
right.
whole marathon. But 100 feet of it is that last turn when you turn off Michigan Avenue and go up the hill
Right.
before the last point too, and you die.
Yeah.
Like everyone cramps on that hill, and it's not a hill.
No.
It's just a little incline.
Slight
So
incline, yeah.
New York was brutal though.
With the bridges, right?
It's not just the bridges. When you come out of Queens and you're at like 100 and whatever, and you're running basically to the end of Central Park, which is what, like 50 something, 60 something, that whole like 3-4 mile stint is all uphill. It's all like a 1 to 2% grade the whole way, and it's just a slog all the way along Central Park to cross it and then run back into Central Park.
Oh, that'll kill you.
Yeah, that was rough. Brooklyn's rough because it's hilly. The bridges, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no marathon's easy.
Well, speaking of sports, I understand that hockey was your true passion growing up. When did you realize you weren't going to make it to the NHL?
After my second knee surgery.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Well, probably after my first knee surgery, really.
Yeah. You're like,
No,
things are
I-
looking a little shaky.
Yeah, I was, I was doing really well when I was younger. I was like 16 and 15 and like really kind of hitting a solid stride, and then a kid fell on my knee and kind of popped everything in. I was a goalie.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it went from like aspirations of D1 to realistically D3 at best. And so that's the reality of it, right? Like I think when you're doing anything like that, if you're only doing it for that end result of I have to go pro, like it was probably pretty unlikely I was ever going to go pro. My hope was like D1 college.
Right.
I just loved it. I mean, my first memories with my dad growing up are on ice skates. So, we lived in Upper Michigan until I was 7, and we got my first pair of skates like at 18 months old, like right after I could walk. Hockey was magical. My dad played when I was little. It's all I knew.
Yeah.
Because like you live in Marquette, Michigan, it's not uncommon to see snowbanks on your birthday in June.
Right.
So, yeah.
How did food enter the picture amidst all this hockey?
I don't know. Food was a byproduct of life. My dad taught hotel restaurant management, and so I was like in and out of his kitchens just as like after school. He wasn't done with work yet, so I'd go play in the kitchens. My first job, summer job with my mom, visiting my mom in the summers. There was a diner behind their house that my like stepdad's third cousin ran, or that like weird Michigan arrangement.
Oh, so you're a Nepo baby.
Yeah, totally. So at 13 in Michigan, so my parents were separated. So my dad lived in New York where I grew up, and I spent the summer in Michigan with my mom. The whole thing in Michigan is that as farm labor, you can actually start working at 13, not 14.
I didn't know that.
And who knew? And you can do it for under minimum wage. So I mean, probably not anymore, but when I was like 13, my stepdad said, well, time to get a job.
Yeah.
And the flea market was partially farmland, and there was a diner on that. So as farm labor, I could start washing dishes at 13.
Wow.
So my 13th birthday was in June, and I think I started working there like a week later.
Yeah.
And I was a dishwasher one summer, and then worked the takeout window and scooping ice cream when I was 14, and the trash boy, I rode around in the truck through the flea market and picked up trash. And then I was 15, I did toast boy.
What is a toast boy?
Well, there's 3 stations, right? There's the fry station, and then the griddle, and then the toast boy.
Huh.
And you make all the toast.
Wow.
And I'm sure if there was a girl there, it would have been toast girl or whatever. But yeah, the chef just called me the toast boy. So that was it. That was my role.
I love that.
It was terrible.
I
He
was
ran
gonna
me
say,
over
toast
every day.
sounds like a tough station.
Well, the problem is you can do 4 tickets of brunch food on the griddle at once.
Yeah.
But a toaster conveyor belt only goes so fast. And so you get mad at you if you sandbag the toast and have piles of it.
Right.
Because it gets stale. Mm-hmm. It's got to be warm. But if the omelet's waiting for its toast and getting cold, they also get mad at you. So it was real high stress for a 15-year-old. I had a lot of 10:30 for my break couldn't have come early enough when I'd go like sit in the basement and just stare at the wall and be like, what am I doing?
I think I'm going to have an anxiety dream just based off that.
Yeah, if you're ever in Michigan, go to Kathy's Kitchen. And
good to know.
You'll really respect that toast guy.
Yeah, tip the toast boy a little extra. I understand that you really sort of caught the bug when you did a trip to Chicago with your dad, and then you thought about going to culinary school, but you were kind of turned down by it?
No, well, I'm still enrolled, actually, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had... Man, you got all the good facts. You dug deep.
You've done like 40
this.
podcasts, bro. I feel like I know you better than you know yourself.
I have. The good news is I tell the truth on all the podcasts. Those stories I just remember. I don't have to backpedal. Yeah, so I did the toast thing. I went to college with the goal to play hockey, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. College was outside Chicago, and the National Restaurant Show is in Chicago every year. So my dad came one year and called me and was like, hey, what are you doing this summer? It's like, it's sophomore in college. I have no plans. So I was like, I don't know. Asked if I wanted to go to the restaurant show. And of course I wanted to go because as a little kid, he'd always come back with all these cool things. And granted, like in hindsight, they were just cups. It was like, here's a cup, here's a lanyard. But as a little kid, it was exciting.
Yeah.
And so I said, sure. And he got me passes and I went with him to the restaurant show and it was so cool. It was like the year of the smoothie. So I was drinking smoothies from everywhere.
Oh, nice.
I think I was like 19.
Like Jamba Juice era?
Yeah, but it was more like, so at the restaurant show, it's not really restaurants, it's like purveyors. So let's say there's this one company that has a new smoothie machine, and then this other company has a smoothie machine.
Yeah.
But I just remember everyone had smoothies.
Huh.
And they were trying to sell their machines, but I was just getting the smoothie samples. And so anyway, he would always go to a couple nice dinners while he was in Chicago. I think that year he did MK and Charlie Trotter, and I think we did Topolobambo or one of Rick Bayless's places. And I didn't go to the Trotter dinner, but I did go to the other two. And MK blew me away.
Yeah.
I was a vegetarian at the time, and I remember they had this goat cheese ravioli that probably, if it was still open, it'd still be on the menu because they always did 2 raviolis, a summer one and a winter one.
Huh.
But it was awesome. And I just remember feeling like I had it felt so big and so cool. Like it was an old paint factory and had this huge skylight, and it was like everything you'd ever seen on a TV show for a fancy restaurant. And I loved it. And so after the restaurant show, he told me that my grandma had pancreatic cancer. And she lived in northern Lower Michigan, and he asked if I wanted to come and help take care of her for the summer. And he and my uncle would basically fly in and out to take care of affairs, but it was terminal, right? It was very far into pancreatic cancer when she found out. Then he asked if I'd just be there, and I had to get a job, whatever. But and so when we first got to her house, we went to Bay Harbor and Petoskey, which is like a cute little town not far from her. And we went to lunch and we went to this place called Latitude. And Latitude almost felt like a nautical MK. Like it was very cool. And they had a sister restaurant in Detroit that had won a couple James Beard Awards. And I was just like, this place is incredible. So I drove back there a few days later and I don't know why goat cheese was the thing for me that summer, but I got the goat cheese pizza because they did like little boutique pizzas. And I just happened to be talking to the sous chef and I was like, yeah, I'm in town, and really kind of like fluffed it up. Like my dad is a chef and, I had no idea what caliber, he wasn't really a chef, but I thought he was. And I talked about my time at MK and how I thought I wanted to go to culinary school. And I interviewed and they gave me a job. They're like, sure, we'll give you 2 weeks. If it doesn't work, you can go away. And it was lunch, and I had no idea what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing. I was a disaster, but by the end I loved it. Yeah. And they asked me if I wanted to come back the next summer, but I ended up not going back. Once my grandma passed away, it was like, what am I going to do up there? Yeah. In hindsight, though, I kind of wish I would have gone back. I think it could have been really cool. But yeah, so I fell in love with it. So I decided at that point after college I was going to go to culinary school. I enrolled in Kendall College, and then I realized that you can't get any financial aid if you have a bachelor's. You can't regress in your career, and that culinary degree is essentially like an associate. So I just said, screw it. I'll go and, I've worked one job. My ego was through the roof. Yeah. And so I just had my Chicago Magazine top 20 list that they used to put out every year. And I just applied to every restaurant over and over again. And I was lucky. The apartment I got downtown after college, I lived above this bar, Pops for Champagne, which at the time was like one of, if not the premier champagne bar in the country. They were the largest Krug account. They were just known for what they were. And I think they still are pretty well recognized. They've changed locations since, but it was a jazz club and champagne bar. So every day, because I had no job and no money, I would go sit down there. My landlord owned it, and some baller would come in on a regular basis and order 3 big bottles for himself and his date and a couple people, and they'd always have extras. So they just plop a bottle in front of me and some of their staff meal, and I got to learn about champagne. And yeah, it was like a crazy opening to the industry.
Sounds like a pretty good pseudo gig just to hang out there and pick everything up.
I mean, it sucked that I had no money and no job, and I really don't remember how we paid rent. But it was a really cool summer.
Well, you got by somehow. And then I understand that from that special lunch or dinner that you had at MK, you actually ended up working at MK.
Yeah, so nobody was responding to my resumes. I applied and staged everywhere. I staged at True and Spring and just like restaurant after restaurant on this list. And I sent a resume to MK and they invited me in for an interview. Or maybe I just dropped a resume off. I think that's what it was. I think I was just showing up.
Wow.
And Stephen Dunn, who was the chef, came out and sat with me. Whose chef was he talked for 15 minutes. And he's like, "Why don't you come in tomorrow and stage?" And at that time, like I was staging all over the city, and they didn't pay stages then, so I was basically just working for free everywhere. Yeah. And he liked the fact that I didn't go to culinary school because he didn't go to culinary school. So I came in and I totally bullshitted my way through that stage. He'd be like, "Do you know how to do this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I totally know how to do that." And I'd ask the cook next to me, "How do I do this?"
Yeah.
And made it happen, got a job, and I think the first 3-4 months were an absolute disaster. So hard every night, and all I did was make French fries.
Yeah. Well, hey, step up from toast.
Pommes frites, right? We made our own French fries. We had truffle aioli. It's like so classy French fries. But I worked next to this meat roast guy who was just like a warrior. He'd been at that restaurant for the time 10 years and worked with Michael Cornick before there. He and his 2 brothers worked there. One night, Steven, he was going through some things in his life, and he had some moments, and it was a bit of a roller coaster. And so he would just kind of get a little unhinged every now and then. And one day he just was like, it was Friday, he's like, "Gustavo, take the night off." He always called me son for some reason. Like, "Son, you're cooking meat tonight." Never cooked meat in my life. And the sous chef, Eric Williams, who has a few restaurants in Chicago now, Virtue and a couple others, incredible. I still talk to him this day. He's the reason I'm still in the industry. I was ready to walk out. I was like, "I can't do this. This is terrible." And Eric walked back in. I thought he was going to work the meat station, so I go back to fries, and he made me work it all night. And he was just there making sure I didn't blow up. I survived. And that was it. So MK was a very, at that point, I was embracing the cook life, so I was just going out drinking every night and showing up like a piece of shit every day. And at that point, it kind of turned around. I lived with 2 guys I played hockey with. And one was a banker and one was a teacher, and we were all going out too much and having too much fun and out of shape and kind of pieces of shit.
Sounds like the way you're supposed to live your 20s.
Yeah, well, so one of them signed us up for a half marathon, and we put money down on it, and we had a bet, and that's when I started running.
No way.
Changed my life.
It all comes full circle.
Traded those late nights for early mornings, got really focused, started doing very well at MK. Rushed through all of the stations and was offered sous chef, and the first 6 months were terrible, and the next year and a half were crash course in learning how to cook and just climbing the ladder there.
It's funny because I heard you describe MK as a kitchen that was 50% career line cooks like Gustavo. You were just content to sort of beast it out, right?
Warriors.
Yeah, warriors.
Yeah.
For decades at a time.
And they made
right?
that restaurant tick, and man, you learned. It's like the equivalent of, and I hope I don't offend anyone by saying this, but the nightclub bartender versus the craft cocktail bartender.
Sure.
Those nightclub bartenders are warriors.
Athletes to some extent.
Yeah. Charles Jolie, who's won best bartender in the world and whatever else, he was our bartender at Aviary, and he was a bartender at Drawing Room, but he started at nightclubs, and the efficiency that he could make a craft cocktail at, mind-boggling, because he came from that pedigree of I'm a warrior. These guys were warriors, and I learned how to do everything without a timer and without a scale and efficiently. And in hindsight, it was a little sloppy. It was a little bit shoemaker, but Yeah, half that, and then half guys who are really aspiring to be something awesome.
When did you realize you were in the latter camp?
I have always had, for better or worse, this problem of if there's a better thing, I want it. Mm-hmm. And whatever the best is, that's what I want, or that's what I have to have. Like whatever's within my means that is the best version. And if there's a better version and there's also a more unique or less attainable version, that's the one I want.
Yeah.
So like, I don't just want, the limited edition color Nike Prestos. I want the, Virgil Abloh Off-White Prestos and the original launch from the 10, because that's the one no one can have, even though they're the same shoe.
Yeah.
So with MK, it was top 20 restaurants. Okay, now I've been here and I've done this. What's the best restaurant in Chicago? And at the time it was True versus MK. So True versus Charlie Trotter. So I applied to both because I knew those were the two. And the Tribune had just come out with an article going point by point, and it put True as number one, which, maybe at the moment it won that contest, but Trotter was a better restaurant overall. But I got a job at True. And then I was ready to leave there and go somewhere better, and I was like, what's the best? And it was going to be Robuchon Vegas, or it was going to be French Laundry, and I'd known I always wanted to work for Ackett's at Alinea. I tried to be on the opening team, I tried to work with a trio, and I never got those jobs. So I suddenly got a job offer at Alinea. They responded to a resume, and that's a whole nother story, but it was like, what is the best and how do I get to the best?
Yeah.
And that was it.
I was going to ask if that explains how you got to Alinea. It sounds like yes.
Well, Alinea was interesting or my path to Alinea, because I wanted to work at Trio. I never responded to resumes, but I had no resume. Right?
Yeah.
I was like, I had a summer job. That was it. And so knowing him, there's no reason that resume would have gotten a second look.
Yeah.
And now in hindsight, I know he was leaving anyway. With Alinea, I was at MK, but I was more enamored with the magic and wonder of food than I think I was the fundamentals at the time. Like, I wanted to know how that happened. I didn't want to know a more refined, cleaner sauce.
It was like figuring out a magic trick almost.
Yeah, exactly. And so what he was doing was so, at the time, so like nothing anyone had ever seen. I mean, what did you have back then? You had like you had eGullet, which was a blog. You had a couple bloggers, people had Tumblr pages.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know how to find them, you didn't know anything about other restaurants. I didn't know what El Bulli was or anything like that. And so I applied for Alinea for the opening team, never got anything back. Worked at True, and frankly, that was the best thing that could have happened. Because I learned all the fundamentals that initially I didn't care about at True, and I realized how not good of a cook I was. I was a machine, but I had zero refinement.
Yeah.
And True taught me sauce work and butchery, how to make a basic tart dough. It taught you how to be clean and organized. And at that point, I was, coming to the end of my time at True, and I talked to the chef about where I should go and what he thought. He was from Ducasse, so he had a lot of very clear thoughts on what things were like and paths going forward. And I happened to be at our bar that we all went to after work on Saturdays, and Kim, she and I had worked together since I started. She's, to this day, one of the best cooks I've ever worked with. Her boyfriend happened to work at Alinea, and she was like, hey, I'm going to be putting in my notice. I'm going to El Bulli to do a season. And Dan and I are both going. And, Kim's had a storied career. She's unreal. But she's like, if you want into Alinea, send your resume tonight.
Huh.
And this is like, we're drunk, right? This is like, on Saturdays, 2 a.m.s are open until 3 a.m. in Chicago, and 3s are open until 5. So
yeah.
I know we were at Brihan, so I know it was before 3 a.m. when she said that, because that's not a 5 a.m. bar. But I also know we went out after. At some point when I got home, I sent a cover letter and a resume. And then, as I often did, for fear of feeling stupid reading it the next day, I deleted it after I sent
your
it.
outbox?
So I don't know what I wrote. But I know I got a call at 10 in the morning that woke me up, and it sounded like a 12-year-old on the phone, and it was Ackett's.
Wow.
And it was like, can you come in and stage next week? As it happened, my birthday was the next week, and my girlfriend was taking me for dinner. So I was like, I can't come next week, but I can come the following week. He's like, I later found out that he thought I was like, I got to go eat there before I'll ever stage to see if it's good enough. Really, I just had a birthday reservation. So yeah, I went there, I staged for one day, and was offered a job that night.
How was Alinea compared to everywhere you'd been before?
Like another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got lucky with my stage because I paired me up with Curtis Duffy, and I helped Achatz prep something. Then I worked with Duffy, and I was really good with verbal orders and counting because that's how orders were called a true. So when I was working the station with the pea dish at the end, it had like this pea ribbon. It was peas and lavender and something. I remember I was good at hearing the counts. So when Curtis looked at the cook at the time and said, how many do we have on deck? And the cook said 4, and I said 6, which I should have just kept my mouth shut, but I said 6. I was right, and the cook was wrong. And I think at that point there was like, okay, this person knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just desperate. I don't know. Maybe they'd hire anyone, but it was very serendipitous. A lot of great things happened, like, Kim nudging me, Kim and Dan leaving, just the timing of everything.
Yeah.
So I went, and I got hired with a couple other people, and we all started as food runners because all the cooks had to start as food runners, and waited my turn for the kitchen. And as it happened, one guy 8 weeks in cut his hand and left work on the Friday, ended up quitting on Saturday, and Saturday night after service I said, you're in the kitchen tomorrow.
That was
Started
your
in the kitchen on Sunday.
the Drew Bledsoe to your Tom Brady moment.
That was it.
Coming in for
that
the
was
injury.
it. Ryan Bartlow. Thank you, Ryan Bartlow. Ryan's great. He's got a couple restaurants in New York now. He's doing great stuff. But had he not cut his hand that day, I don't know how long I would have waited in the kitchen, because basically you were waiting for someone to quit to get into that kitchen.
Yeah.
That was it. Didn't matter how many food runners there were. That was your entrance. And I got lucky because one person deferred the kitchen before me, and then I had an opening.
So what was the first dish you were entrusted with at Alinea from start to finish? Do you remember it?
Yep. Beef, watermelon, and fennel. It was smoked and seared Wagyu ribeye with sheets of fennel puree. You'd like do this almost like light green, white fennel puree, spread on acetate, freeze it, and then you'd break pieces and set it on the plate so it was a sauce sheet. It had watermelon compressed in red wine, I want to say a cab, and then you did a cocoa and olive crumb on two sides, so it looked like the seared beef, where you had squares of that and squares of the beef. It had a cocoa foam, smoke pudding, which was smoked water set with agar, fennel fronds. I'm sure there was something else on that dish. I remember seeing it, and I remember carrying that dish up the stairs, and it had all these things I didn't like on it. And every time I carried it, I remember thinking, this smells so fucking good. I want to eat this. And then it became my dish. And man, all I wanted was to have a day where someone didn't have to help me.
Yeah.
That was it. I just wanted one service or prep day where someone didn't have to help me. And I finally did it like a month in, where Curtis didn't have to pick my fennel, or someone didn't have to puree something for me. And the next day, chef was like, you're going to start picking up the porcini dish too. I was like, that dish is, there were 17 prep items on the beef fennel, and I think there were 21 items on the porcini dish. And I just remember thinking, I can barely get this done. How am I going to do that? And Curtis looked at me and said, well, you're fucked. And just kind of laughed, but I don't know, you do it, right? I mean, what's human nature? If I give you 3 hours to do a project, you're going to get it done in 3 hours.
Yeah.
If I take an hour away, you're going to get it done in 2. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so I did it. And I remember when the beef dish changed to this beef beak Campari, I was fine. And then I remember a VIP coming in, and they were eating like sort of back-to-back nights. And Achatz loved, if someone did that, to try and give them a totally different menu.
Wow.
Even though we had I think at the time, like a 24, 28 course menu, he would want to show them something different.
A completely different menu?
as different as he could. Back pocket dishes they could bang out. And so he looked at me and he's like, what can we do? And, that's basically like, what are you going to pull out? And not like create your own dish, but like, who has what? And I said, I can do the old beef fennel. And he's like, you can pull that together for tomorrow? I was like, yeah, no problem. And I did. And that's for me the moment that it clicked, when I went from struggling with one dish to having the two dishes to looking at them and saying, I can pull together a third dish that I used to do because that dish feels so easy now relative to what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think everyone has a moment where there's like a switch, right?
Yeah.
That was the switch for me. That's when I looked around and thought, I'm not going to die every day, but instead, like, there's more that I can achieve here.
It's like a marathon train. When you look at your marathon training schedule and you're like, fuck, how am I going to get to 16 miles in like week 8 when I just like huffed and puffed through 4 miles today?
For me, 12 is that pivotal point in marathon where you go from 12 being your long run to 12 being your recovery run. Like, you'll do like 16, 18, 12, 18, 20, 12.
Right.
And those 12-mile runs, you're like, oh, such a chill day today.
Yeah. That's exactly what it reminded me of. In a similar vein, when you took over CDC, were you ready for it, or was it more of the same?
No, I was not ready. Achatz was out. He had cancer, obviously, as like everyone knows. And Jeff Pikus was running the kitchen, who's incredible. He was like the perfect robot to make that place move. He didn't create new, but nothing was ever wrong with him. It was like, this is what we do, and if you can't understand that, get out of the way.
Yeah.
But Jeff and I and Achatz basically wrote the cookbook over GChat while he was in cancer treatment in the hospital.
Wow.
And so Jeff and I would get home from work, and you'd sign on to your Gmail, and Achatz would just be there. Where are we at? And, you'd be writing till like 5 a.m. and then go to bed for a few hours, and you're back at work 10 a.m. And it was hard. I think Jeff was, he was burning the candle at both ends, and drinking a little too much, and we were all kind of like in and out of like, you're fatigued, so you get sick.
Yeah.
Alex Stupak and Jordan Kahn had both left, and we had a void for pastry chef. John Shields was doing pastry, and then Greg Backstrom was on it, and then he and I switched, so I was sous chef in charge of pastry. And I remember we were doing these tastings for pastry chefs, and I'm like, none of you guys, like, the magic of Stupak was his vision mirrored Achatz's vision, and it all felt cohesive.
Yeah.
These other pastry chefs, it felt like, once it wasn't a sous chef doing it, the people doing the tastings, it felt more like, well, this is my forum for my food, not a collective vision. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a tasting for pastry chef. I'm going to try to be the pastry chef for this restaurant. And
and you'd never done?
No, but I had been doing pastry for like the the tabletop dessert, the mat plate. The first 3 were all my desserts.
Got it.
I didn't craft the tabletop idea.
Yeah.
But the desserts on them were my dishes.
Yeah.
The bubblegum dish was my dish. There were most of the pastry in that window of time were dishes I created, obviously through like chef's lens and with him like more often than not saying no, not yes. But I liked it. It was an opportunity to create, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I was planning on how to approach chef to say like, I want to do a tasting for you. I want this role. Because that was the only way I was going to get to create at that restaurant.
Yeah.
And then there was this day. There's this coconut sheet that Jeff had been working on, and Achatz was there. And when he came back from cancer, he was reasserting himself as the leader of that kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was an aggressive time. I mean, not like physically or abusive, like no one was throwing plates or anything like that. But there was a lot of like reasserting the dominance, and he snapped on something that Jeff had did in a moment when Jeff was sick or hungover, or the candle was burning too long, and he had nothing left, and he just said fuck this and fuck you. Threw a pot at the back wall, which no one ever threw a pot. Chucked a pot, walked out the back door, and that was it. And we all kind of sat outside for staff meal, and I remember one of the sous chefs, John Peters, who had been there kind of back helping us, walked up to me and said, well, you're next. And a day later, Atkins said, you're next in line, but it's not going to happen yet. And I think that was like in October. And then I got promoted in January, right after we did the French Laundry per se Alinea dinners.
Yeah.
So I was basically acting as chef cuisine without it, but man, it was hard. It was hard every day.
Yeah.
Everything was wrong all the time. And then Atkins was traveling a little bit, and you'd have to send that email, and he'd be like, how was service? And if you were like, it was good, and then someone else said it was bad, you were screwed.
Yeah.
And if it was bad, you were screwed. And it was just... But eventually we got it.
Yeah.
You know.
It sounds, again, just getting thrown into the deep end before you're ready and rising to the occasion in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, there's... Realistically, you're doing the job before you're put in that role to do the job, but I don't think anyone was going to put the restaurant and everything that was happening at that. It was a really magical moment for that restaurant, and I think all the pressure was coming from everywhere, so you're putting so much on yourself.
Yeah.
Like things that seemed silly to get frustrated about were like world-ending things at the time.
Yeah. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, I mean, there was this moment where we screwed up. The sous chefs all screwed up. And we used to have this rosemary service piece. And there was this little metal thing with a hole in it, and you'd take a piece of rosemary, like, 8-10 inches long, like beautiful, perfect spear of rosemary, take a peeler, and you'd peel the end of it, and you'd stick it in there. And later down the line in the menu, someone would take that piece of rosemary out, and they'd put it in a service piece in front of you, like this brick with a hole, and it would burn the rosemary, and so it smelled awesome.
Yeah.
And there was one day rolling into service, and Atkins goes, where's the rosemary? No one had done it. Because, like, when he was in the restaurant, he did it, and, or cook would do it, or someone would do it, but it wasn't on necessarily anyone's prep list. I think we all just forgot because we were just in the shits.
Yeah.
And that night, I think we stayed at the restaurant till 5, 6 in the morning with him just lacing us, just losing his, like, hitting the table, yelling, screaming. I distinctly remember it because it was 2 days before a marathon. And I just kept thinking, this marathon's going to be awful.
Yeah, you're like, I'm fucked.
Yeah,
My sleep
yeah.
is gonna
I
be
think this was
fucked.
like on a Friday night, or Thursday or Friday night. And we had to sit there and write the entire prep list for every single dish, for every single station, and who was on it. Well, he just sat there, just lighting us up. And the next night we had to do it again. And then I didn't go to bed before that marathon because we were there that Saturday night. I just went straight home, changed, ran the marathon, went straight back to work. And it was like the longest stint of, it was hard. But in hindsight, like, 1, no one was late on getting the rosemary.
Right.
2, all the managers got it done in record time, which then led us to this idea that when you had big projects like peeling fava beans, we would just, instead of 2 people peeling 8 quarts of fava beans, we'd put a quart on everyone's station. And the first 10 minutes of their day, they'd all peel the fava beans, and then it was done in 10 minutes because the whole restaurant just did it. So, like, we started group projects from that, and we started, a lot of positivity came from it.
Yeah.
But, like, it didn't have to be that way, but I guess it did.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because, some people listening to that, and there's a lot of discussion these days about abusive work environments versus intense work environments.
Sure.
And I'm curious to hear, from your perspective, what is the difference between those two? Like, it seems like there could be a fine line.
There is a very fine line, and I think now you have to step away more than I wish I had to from the intense work environment in order to not be perceived by some as abusive.
Yeah.
For me, and I'm sure other people will disagree, especially, I know other people disagree, and I know that they'll disagree in the window of time after I was at the restaurant, but I know while I was there, the goal was never abusive, but it was always very, very intense. And I never felt, the belittling at the table that night, that was certainly, like, more than intense. But look, if you do a bad job on something and I say, this is shit, versus if I say you're a piece of shit.
Yes.
That is a very fine line.
Yeah.
But they mean 100% different things.
Yeah.
And I think you can be very critical and aggressive at the work that is being done without being aggressive towards the individual doing it.
Yeah.
And that's really what defines it. The
Yeah.
problem that you run into is it's a blurred line on how feelings are hurt when you are critiquing the work being done by an individual.
Yeah.
Because you may see it as this work is work, and the person may see it as this work is me. And so I think you have to err on the side of teaching and, you know, forgiveness as opposed to discipline.
Yeah.
It's taken a long time to learn how to positively critique and still try to yield the results you want in a timely fashion. The problem, though, is if you yell too much, you're either background noise or people only work hard enough to not get yelled at.
Yeah.
So ideally, you're inspiring people to work harder and to call each other out and to self-police because of their pride,
Right.
not because of their fear.
Yeah. Like it's like they want to run through a brick wall for you.
Yeah.
Not they don't want you to throw a brick at them.
Yeah,
That
and
kind
on
of
the flip
thing.
side, I want to run it through a brick wall for them.
Yeah.
You know, and when it becomes that version of the kitchen, that's the best functioning kitchen.
Yeah.
And there have been times, like when I was at Alinea, where both existed. I think when Achatz was out with cancer, and that kitchen was down to 9 people and 3 managers, and we would have died for that restaurant, every one of us. And it wasn't a kitchen of the most talented cooks I've ever worked with, but it was probably the best kitchen I've ever worked in. I mean, that kitchen went from, I think, 16 cooks to 9 cooks
Yeah.
in a matter of 2 weeks, and then Achatz was out.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from that and how to believe in each other and believe that the work can be good enough that, you know, look at how good mine is. Why isn't yours that good? Not what a piece of shit you are for doing this and just throwing it in the trash and walking away.
Now, how much of this, or is there an element of this that's generational? Because I feel like in this day and age, what's said of like younger generations coming up, like Gen Z, especially as they're getting to the kitchen,
Yeah.
they are a little more sensitive to certain work environments.
Yes. I mean,
I was about to say, I don't want to make you paint with a broad brush, but
it's a delicate statement, but for better or worse, it is a more sensitive environment for a more sensitive team.
yeah.
I will always err on the side that it is a better environment because people are happier.
Yeah.
People want to come in, there's a better quality of life. I mean, the biggest problem I personally have from living that life for so long is I have no work-life balance.
Yeah.
Like, my time at home with my wife and kids, I'm like, as much as I want to be 100% engaged, and as much as I want to take a Thursday night off here and go home because that's a night that I could do something with my kid if we're slower, I struggle with leaving something behind and going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And to a younger generation's credit, they've found that balance.
Yeah.
For me, obviously it's harder when I'm like, why isn't it like this? How did you let that go? But they're like, oh, I'm off. And I am a little envious of that. I think that's something I wish I understood how to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's give and take, right?
For sure. I think what you said is key, though. If it's yielding results where folks are happy,
Yeah.
and like the work is still getting done, it's like I feel like a lot of times what's driven us. I speak for myself too, because I'm very much like you. Have a hard time clocking off and like
Sure.
putting things away, but you kind of learn that like things are gonna be okay if you do that over time, But it's a learned behavior.
Yeah, but sometimes they're not okay. Sometimes they're not. I mean, I remember at Pajoli, like we caught a Michelin inspector one time, and I remember the food was about to go, and I looked at it, and I looked at the cook, and I was like, "What is this?
Yeah.
Why is this like this?" And they're like, "Oh, I thought it'd be okay," and it wasn't okay. and we sent an extra course, and I threw that course away, and I had to fix it. And it was a disaster, and ultimately we didn't earn the star back. And I don't know that it was because of that. I don't know because of anything. Like, that restaurant was never supposed to have a star anyway. It was always supposed to be a great neighborhood spot. And so, but I do remember thinking, like, you don't care that this just happened.
Yes.
And whether that was an inspector or an everyday person off the street, because that's the clientele we want, the reality is you don't care that this is wrong because your mindset was, oh, I'll just do better next time.
Yeah.
And it took a lot in me to... An older version of me would have had a much different and more glorified reaction.
Right.
And it was very difficult to not have that moment where I think I had to remove myself from the situation for a minute.
Well, that's growth right there. But I was going to say, things go wrong in both ways, as we learned with the rosemary sprig. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like things happen.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the guest experience doesn't suffer, then you can manage it as a learning experience. But what kills me is when the guest experience suffers. Like, I had this valuable lesson, again, at Alinea one day, where it was the point of diminishing returns, where the final course of the menu was this, like, coconut custard impaled on a vanilla bean that we then melted a neutral caramel over with, like, lime. Anyway, it was like coconut lime thing on a vanilla bean that you just picked up and ate. Cool. But if the coconut custard didn't set quite long enough, it would fall off the bean. But you could only force it to set faster so much. And if it didn't quite stick, you couldn't just re-stick it. You had to start over at zero.
Yeah.
And it was 45 minutes for that last bite to walk. And it walked, and it was perfect when it walked. But if it had been laying down instead of standing up and walked in 5 minutes, would the course have been better or worse?
Yeah.
And that was the one time Ackett sat me down and he's like, I'm going to tell you a story. And it was about Keller in the diminishing return speech that he gave about, 15 courses versus 20. And if you give those extra 5 courses because of chef's ego and wanting to show off for someone, did you make their experience better by showing them more, or did you make it worse by making them too full and keeping them too long?
Yeah.
And it's the same philosophy, right? Where do you hit that point of diminishing returns? In that case, it was like, don't serve the course, or find an alternate way where it doesn't affect it too much. And literally, I could have just laid that vanilla bean down on a different, interesting plate, and it would have been fine. But in my head, it was like, it's not perfect, it's not walking.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. I've definitely been in the tasting menus that you're describing where I'm like, what is happening here? I wish this was 5 courses shorter.
Well, yeah, and our rule was never more than 6 minutes, ideally 4 minutes between every course. So when it's fired in the kitchen to when it leaves the kitchen, 4 to 6 minutes max.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have a 45-minute gap before one bite that, frankly, in hindsight, was just okay.
Yeah. Insane.
It's like...
I wanted to ask you about next, but we're running a little long and there's so much I still want to get to. So I'm going to ask you, why did you decide to move to Los Angeles in 2017?
Oh, man. I didn't ever want to leave Alinea. I loved it. Ackett sat me down and was like, I know you're going to want to leave. You've been here almost 4 years now. Here's a new opportunity. Presented me with Next. I hated the idea because we'd just gotten 3 Michelin stars. We were number 7 in the world at that time. When I left, we'd hit 6. Next seemed really interesting, but I didn't want to go lower, so we made it fine dining. It became this like testing ground for me to understand what I thought my style was going to become. And it ran its course. I had an eye-opening moment there where we did a steakhouse menu, and I'd just done this progression of menus where I really felt it was me, and I was understanding myself. And then Kokonis came in and was like, we're doing steakhouse. I want it to be like this. And I fought him because I wanted to be this. And that was the moment I realized that I was going to do the restaurant a disservice if I stayed. Because in finding your own path, you're not allowing the restaurant to be what it's supposed to be, which is an ever-evolving and changing place.
Yeah.
Because the goal in finding your own path is having a clear, concise identity.
Interesting.
And so I spent the next couple years writing decks for what I wanted my restaurant to be in LA. Not necessarily in LA. At that point, it was New York or San Francisco. I was helping coach Bocuse d'Or. So I was out in Napa like every 8 weeks for a couple years. And I fell in love with the idea that all the produce we were ordering in Chicago was like literally on the ground.
Right.
Like outside French Laundry, was just a pile of nasturtium. And I'm like, we pay a small fortune for this little clamshell, and I didn't know it was a vine. I thought it was like, just little leaves that grew. So my business partner, who was not at the time my business partner, he was helping me write my deck. He lived in LA, so I came to visit him. And he really sold me on the idea that all of this, like, everything I wanted was here.
Yeah.
Produce, the mountains, the all of the diversity in the dining scene, and also, early 2000s Chicago was a really magical point where you started to have this dining scene that was embracing the chefs that were there and really supporting it. And I felt that way when I came out here in 2015, where I was like, this is a dining scene that's suddenly becoming something.
Right.
And I had a lot of friends who I felt were similar to me, like Hollingsworth was out here with Odium. He was coming out of French Laundry. Jessica Largy was going to be opening Simone. She was the same as me out of Manresa. At the time, James Kent was coming out here to open Nomad, and I had a great relationship with the 11 Madison Park Nomad people. Jordan Kahn was helping me look for spaces out here.
He had Destroyer at that point, or not?
That was before Destroyer. He still had Red Medicine.
Got it.
And so I just had a lot of Voltaggio I was talking to a lot. So I felt like I had a good restaurant community out here. It felt really special. So finally I was just like, screw it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to a city that doesn't have a clear path. New York has a clear path of fine dining, or did at the time. San Francisco had a clear path of fine dining. LA felt like it was still trying to understand what it wanted to be, and so did Chicago when I started cooking there.
Yeah.
So that's it. I took the plunge, and I moved here in like April of 2016.
Yeah.
Then opened Dialogue in September of 2017.
But Dialogue, I understand, was initially supposed to be something a lot different than what it ended up being.
Dialogue was supposed to be this.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this is like grown-up Dialogue. I couldn't. We had a space downtown that we negotiated for 9 months. That was a block from Nomad. And I lived above it. And I had a plan for basically a Pas Joli with a Dialogue hidden in it.
Huh.
And then it had the bank vaults downstairs. Eventually we were going to do a speakeasy down there. It was awesome. And every time I thought we had an LOI done, the landlord would come back with like something they didn't redline, even though they'd agreed to it. So we'd have to send another copy, and 3 weeks later it'd come back. And then finally, when the final version came, instead of it coming, they just said, we're going to put this on pause. We're also talking to someone else. We want to see where that goes first. The space was never rented. It's still empty. I don't think they ever intended to rent it. But it killed me because I moved here with my wife and the last of my savings and had no income. And basically hit a point where if I didn't find money, I was on my last month. I'd maxed out every credit card, and that was it. And then I did dinner at Hotel Bel Air and with Sean Barak and Wolfgang. And Wolf offered me a job doing like culinary development for him at the design center. So. But yeah, Dialogue was supposed to be this like great over the top. It was supposed to be the final version the moment I got here, and instead it was a 700 square foot space in a food court.
But I understand that it was one of the first times you actually got to see guests enjoying your food.
Yeah, I had to talk to them. I had to serve them.
Yeah.
At that place, it was magical.
Yeah.
Like it was, including the 2 dishwashers, 9 of us who worked there, we'd all, except for the dishwasher, we all worked together in Chicago. Guests tell me every night how much they miss Dialogue, which is funny because Dialogue was like busy sometimes. I mean, it was busy for the first year or two, and then just kind of, like anything just kind of fizzled out. We ran out of the ability to do more than we could there after about a year. Yeah. Because it's so small. But like I was just flipping through old menus the other day and looking at dishes, and I'm like, man, it's kind of like Kanye's Donda album. Yeah. If you could take that album and cut out like a few songs in it and shrink it to 45 minutes, it's a great album. Yeah. But I mean, forget all the other Kanye stuff. Let's just talk about
musically,
the art.
Yes.
But there's just so much nonsense in it that it's like this is not.
Yeah,
and I look
bloated.
at the Dialogue menus. I'm like, if I could take those 10, 20 course menus and rearrange them in the best way, there were some really cool menus there. But there were a lot of like, I designed that restaurant to figure out where my limits were. Yeah. I wrote courses that I knew would be challenging to the guests. I wrote courses that I knew would be overly comforting but weren't progressive enough because I wanted to see what guests responded to.
And having that experience of seeing what guests responded to, was there anything that surprised you? Like, were there any dishes where you're like, well, I'm really surprised that the guests are having this reaction to it?
Yeah, everyone talks about this stupid tempura fried French onion soup. Anyone who ate at Dialogue in that first year was like, oh, that French onion soup was great. It was so dumb. It was, yeah, but it was cool. Maybe it'll come back here one day. I did not expect everyone to respond to coffee and caviar. So much so that it's the only course from Dialogue at Celine. It's the only course that was on the menu at Dialogue for 3 of the menus. Every menu had one course from the previous menu and one that ended up on the next.
Right.
So one course would make it sometimes to 2 menus. There were a couple like that I never saw people really being into that. And for better or worse, we didn't really repeat ourselves there, and I didn't want to do here what I'd done there. I wanted to treat that as a learning experience. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just restarted with Dialogue food. I mean, I'm glad I didn't, right? Like the path is long and windy, but if you have the end goal in mind, you have to keep on that.
So Pajoli comes along in 2019, and you've referenced it in this conversation already, but that it was never supposed to be a Michelin star restaurant, that you envision it sort of like as more of a neighborhood spot, neighborhood bistro. It reminds me of this concept called relationship momentum my wife likes to talk about, where like 2 people start dating and they like each other just fine, but then all of a sudden you just keep doing the steps and all of a sudden you're married, you have kids, and you're like, how the fuck did we get here? We just kind of like each other. Is that kind of what happened with Pajoli? You're just kind of like, okay, we can keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and all of a sudden you're in a Michelin star place and you keep chasing it?
I'll tell you what happened with Pajoli. We opened that restaurant, and I had a pretty clear vision of it, but my vision of it and what I thought was a casual neighborhood spot, frankly, wasn't. And I'm sure it was much more high-end than it should have been. But when we opened it, I had a very distinct vision of what that bistro was, and the place was awesome. That first 5 months that it was open, there were a couple dishes that I didn't love on it that, had short lives as we were understanding what we were, because frankly, in the first 6 months to a year of a restaurant, either you are perfect and exactly what you'll ever be, and that's it, and you're locked in, or you're just learning how to walk.
Yeah.
And then year 2 becomes, very good. Year 3, if you're on the right growth trajectory, becomes magical. Like that's how Linea was. If you look at year 1 versus 2 versus 3, I think year 3, and I left there at the start of year 6. But I still look at the things created in year 3 and how cohesive that storyline was. It was very clear the path that restaurant was on.
Yeah.
Where I think, the dishes were cool in year 2 when I was there, but it felt like a better bridge as it evolved.
Yeah.
So with Pajoli, I think it was on a phenomenal trajectory. I think that the diners were really embracing what it was becoming. It was cool. And then pandemic happened. When we reopened, we had, ribeye, we'll give lobster for example.
Yeah.
Lobster went from $9.99 a pound to $29.99 a pound. But the average diner wasn't really going to embrace us tripling the price of a lobster dish.
No.
And then labor was really hard to bring in. And so when we reopened, there were only 4 of us cooking as opposed to the 7 that were cooking before pandemic.
Yeah.
And we had to simplify. We shrank the menu. We started putting bottles of water on the table as opposed to having 2 people who basically walked around pouring and filling water. And that's when Pajoli got very confused, because I was so holding on to the trajectory we were on.
Right.
And which is what we had earned a star off of. And it couldn't be that. So instead of embracing what it was supposed to be evolving into, I was fighting it, and it was just confused.
Yeah.
Right? Like, here's a very modern dish with French influence on classic plates, and the cooks couldn't execute that, and we were doing a certain volume of covers with only 4 of us, and it was hard. It was rough, and then my confidence is going all over because I'm like, well, this isn't right, and why isn't this doing what it's supposed to do, and how are we doing this? And then, we lose the star, and it was just really the restaurant was confused, I was confused, and then I was like, why are we chasing this star? We never wanted this star.
Yeah.
And, but it's fickle, right? Because you lose a star and everyone thinks you're not as good anymore.
Right.
Or you don't get a star right off the bat. And people are like, oh, that place must not be as good.
Yeah.
They don't realize that, like, it's a different thing.
Right.
It's not better or worse, but
Yeah.
it's a different thing.
Well, it's also funny because correct me if I'm wrong, but the year you lost the star, maybe the year after you lost the star, you were listed as a semifinalist for Outstanding Restaurant for the James Beard Awards, and no Los Angeles restaurant has achieved the Outstanding Restaurant Award for 20 years or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we were, as far as I know, you're eligible at 5 years, unless that's changed, and that was at our 5-year anniversary that we were. That blindsided me. I don't know where that came from.
But that's a huge accomplishment to be.
It was
people
crazy.
at the Oscars say that all the time.
Yeah.
It's just honor just to be nominated. But for that award, it really is.
And I look back at it because, like, every year at Paz Jolie has felt like a different year.
Yeah.
I mean, not like, of course, a different year, but it's felt like I can look at each year and say, this is what we were trying to figure out with the restaurant this year. This was our hurdle this year. This was our hurdle this year. Because we went from opening 5 months into pandemic, and then, the whole shit show of reopening and, like, only dining outside and spaced tables and then masks and then brunch on Sunday and, like, all the things we were trying to figure out there. And then we rolled into the entertainment strike and the writer's strikes. And so, like, every year it always felt like you're not ahead from the previous year. You're just having to do another version.
Yeah.
And another version. And another version. Which is why finally, I got mad at how expensive things had to be because I was like, I don't want a $70 entree. These are the only entrees. But that's where our food cost has to be. Like, I don't want to serve, Cisco chicken.
Yeah.
And, food cost and labor costs together have to hit a certain number. And so, I didn't want to sacrifice staff. I didn't want to. And so we went to Prefix because I looked at, some great restaurants like Bell's.
Yeah.
And June and Jolie. And I was like, this is a system that I know, that I love, that will help us manage costs, that for $95 you can get 5 courses. It's a lower check average than what we were getting for 3 courses.
Yeah.
And we don't have to sacrifice product. And that didn't connect with anyone. No one was into that. And I didn't understand why. We had the bar menu as well. And then one day I was walking by with my daughter. She was like just about to turn 3. And she loves we live in the neighborhood, so she loves like just running around on Main Street. And we had these like tater tot things at the bar, and so I sat down with her, and I ordered her those, and I looked around the bar, and I was like, this isn't the neighborhood spot it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. It's just, we're telling people what they should do, not letting people do what they want to do. And the great thing about neighborhood spot is you can come in and be what you want to be there. So that's when we shut it down and did the reopen.
That's what sparked the refresh that happened.
Because I've been here for 4 months, and then, as we're trying to open this, and through the fires and everything, like, that was fine. So this needed to be the focal point. It's a brand new restaurant, and frankly, like, this is the thing that I want to become the greatest thing.
Yeah.
And it requires attention.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to hand off my child to someone else. And so getting back in there on a Monday and seeing just like, a few people at the bar, because it's right when we opened, empty dining room still, I was just like, I don't want this. I don't like this. This is fine, but it's not right.
Yeah. Well, it speaks to your need to always be chasing.
Yeah, I got to stop that.
I gotta just I've seen a theme.
Can we just leave everything alone? And
No, but I think it takes a lot of balls, guts, however we want to say it. But like, to shut down a restaurant and then be like, we gotta reimagine this, refresh it.
Yeah.
I think that's not an easy thing to do. I think I've heard that 5 years, 6 years in, restaurants need refreshes. Mm-hmm. But like, to shut it down completely and to go away for a few months to really think about it. And I think what came back with Paz Jolie is something noticeably different.
Yeah.
But that I think does really fit the soul of the neighborhood a lot better.
Yeah, and it's funny, I found an old menu from right after we opened that pandemic, and I set it next to the Paz Jolie menu now, and I looked at them, I was like, these are not the same restaurant at all. And, I think at the time, like the first version of Pajoli was a great restaurant, and I wish it could have continued to be that restaurant. And now I look at this version of the restaurant, and this version of the restaurant is a restaurant that I could go to once a week.
Yeah.
And so I think the big picture argument there is, do you want the place that you want to go once a week, or do you want the jewel box? And it was never supposed to be a jewel box.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because it feels like we're sitting in your jewel box right now.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
That's the
I was
goal,
gonna say, because like I feel like, you know, you talk about this is the place you want to give all your attention to. I'm talking about Celine, right?
Yeah.
This is where we're sitting right now. It feels like tangibly looking around, sitting in the space. It's the work of a chef that's not done pushing. That's
Yeah, no.
This is the shiny, new, unique thing that
Yeah.
you hearken to at the start of this interview. You know, with all the success you've already had, you know, you've mentioned you have young kids now. Time is at a premium. Did you ever think like, maybe I don't need to do this right now?
Probably should have. Well, you know, the problem is I don't know if I did us favors or not when we opened this restaurant. Probably didn't, but timing was tough for us when we opened because we opened and 4 weeks later the fires.
Yeah.
So that obviously presented a lot of challenges. Farm produce, staffing issues, you know, it was just closed for 2 weeks after being 4 weeks open.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing with this place is I didn't want it to be a continuation. I wanted it to be new and thoughtful and I didn't want what I'd already done to be the best thing I'd ever done.
Of course.
And then this to just be like, I guess an evolution of that. I wanted it to be new, and I wanted to see how far it could go.
Yeah.
But the problem with doing that is often you take a step back in order to leap forward. And so I think in that first couple months, it was not a step back in quality, but it was definitely a step towards simplicity, which doesn't always bring like the wow factor. But for me, it was like new restaurant, new team, new space, new philosophy. Let's focus on hot food hot, cold food cold, delicious factor first, you know, interesting and refined, and then let's see how it evolves.
Yeah.
And it really took us, I don't know, probably, we had Ackett's cooking here with us in the Alinea team in March.
Wow, that's crazy soon after you opened.
Yeah, that was intense. It kicked off their 20th anniversary. He came in and did 2 dinners with us. And that was very eye-opening to see someone with fresh eyes rethink your restaurant who'd never been here and never seen it. And then from there, I think that was in March. April, we really took a step back and kind of assessed everything and what we learned and what we understood. And then once May hit, I think we really started a lot of refinement here. And by the time we hit June and July, I think it's getting to the point where it feels really special, really unique. And like the autumn menu is already pretty well written, but I want to dive into a bunch of R&D. So by the time we hit October with the autumn menu, I think that'll be clearly a different level. Like I think where we started versus the Alinea point versus where we are now, the trajectory is far more than anything I've done previously.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah, I mean, even like we have a couple diners who've, you know, eaten here a handful of times, and it's not a different restaurant, but it's a different restaurant each time, and you know, different courses, but also more evolved. Right now we have the whole staff come in an hour early on Saturdays to run drills. And it's like, okay, let's redo the descriptions of this. How do we all understand this dish? And you quickly learn like, oh, maybe you didn't remember that radish is actually a focal point on this dish because you've been focusing on the shrimp.
Yeah.
You know, so things like that, cohesion and storyline. You know, fine dining is always slow in the summers for the most part. So we've been taking advantage of that and hoping to, you know, once autumn hits, just to push.
It's funny you say storyline, because one thing I've heard you talk about is storytelling and the storytelling of a dish, and how sometimes if it's not done properly, it can cause to someone misunderstanding a dish at a table and maybe not enjoying it in a way that they would have if they understood the story. I think you described this with a borscht course at Noma or something?
Yeah, it was a Noma, like a pickled vegetable, and if I remember right, it was pork jus and like beef bone marrow.
Yeah.
Little rings of pickled vegetables. I remember the dish. I may be messing up some of the ingredients. But and for me, like, the dish was fine, but understanding the backstory gave me a unique perspective.
Yeah.
The flip side argument of that, and I have this friend, Bonjwing, he's a food writer, blogger. I don't know what he is. He used to be a blogger. He's a photographer. He and I, we rarely see eye to eye on food. So, I've cooked him many, many meals, and he likes half of them.
That's crazy.
I know what he'll like, and I know what he doesn't like. But I think in my age and maturity, like, I like weirder, more, forward progressing things. I know that he loves luxury. But the one thing as I'm getting older that I think we're starting to agree on, and he just did this whole long post about this, is the storytelling in food, and how he hates if a chef has to tell you a story. And the one thing I'm starting, because I used to always say that dish, if they would have just told me the story. But the reality is the flavors were good and it was a good dish. But I think my ego got in the way of allowing me to appreciate the fact that it was a good dish. I was 29. I'd been chef de cuisine of Alinea for 2 years. We had 3 stars. We just gotten 6 in the world. I was as big of an ego as you could get. Right. And I didn't think I had an ego, but in hindsight, I had a huge ego. There's no reason I should have discounted that meal. I should have celebrated the fact that it was different and unique from what we were doing. And I didn't. I didn't embrace the fact that he had a carrot pulled at first frost or whatever it was. And so I was like, this is it. I flew all the way to Copenhagen for a carrot. Total misplaced ego. But now I'm understanding that if I have to tell you the story, the dish wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
If I can sprinkle in a story because something in that dish sparked your curiosity, it's a better dish.
Yeah.
And so if I can put down a dish of, a spring apple dish, and you, as someone who understands how things grow and work, are going to say, why the hell are there apples in spring if you're talking about the market? That sparks a conversation of me then talking about farmers culling their trees and why we have culled apples on our menu right now, or spring apples. I want the story and the color commentary to be there, but I think the mature perspective is if the dish isn't good enough, the story's not going to save it.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, if the dish is good enough, you're going to want that story.
Right.
And so that's been, I think, over the last 2 months in dish development here, that's been the evolution of it. Because the cooks run most of the food here, getting the front of the house to be available for the color commentary, to come in and as they're pouring your water, how do they engage you? How do they fill in the blanks to have you really connect with it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like maybe it's a sign of my own maturity in terms of consuming food, but I definitely feel like I'm at a place where I still appreciate the story.
Yeah.
But the way you just framed it, you're right. There's such a balance to it.
Yeah.
A story is not going to save a bad dish, to your point.
And frankly, so you're sitting in this space, and obviously a lot of people listening to this can't see this space right now, but the general design of this, when we started talking about fine dining restaurants, name some great classics. Ducasse in Paris, right? It is so over the top that you are like, did I dress all right? Did I, am I on time? Did I come in the right way? And there's plenty of American restaurants that make you feel exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And it takes 45 minutes or so for you to settle in. Can you talk loud enough? Should you touch this? What if I laugh? True was like that. You were afraid to crack a joke. Servers wouldn't crack a joke with you. And you're looking at millions of dollars of art on the wall around you. I think that starts from your childhood. We all have that family member, regardless of economic class, right? Like a grandparent, an aunt, or whoever, who has that room in their house with the table, with the hutch, with the plate, and only the adults get to eat in there on Easter.
Yeah.
Right? Or whatever, the thing is. And and it's the special china, and the kids don't go in there, and like my grandma had a doggy door or a little baby gate in front of it, even though there were no babies and no dogs. And when you were in there, you dressed up, and you didn't talk too loud, and you held your glass a certain way, and that's how you acted.
Yeah.
And for me, that fear of being out of place in those scenarios leads to what fine dining becomes for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Am I appropriate in this space? And so when we were talking about this restaurant, we thought a lot about my grandparents' home in Michigan, and how a lot of those homes built between the 50s and 70s had, the room in towards the front, and then they had the kitchen towards the back of the house. And a lot of those kitchens were too big, and they had a sliding door to the backyard that you'd let your dog out or whatever, and the shitty card table in the kitchen, right? And everyone sat around that table. And 3 more friends came over, folding chairs would come from wherever, and you had extra chairs. They didn't match. But that was the home, right? That's where the family was, and that's where most of your meals were had, and cards were played after dinner, or, we'd all help grandma out in the kitchen.
Right.
When friends came over, they didn't ring the doorbell, right? If the doorbell rang, it was someone you didn't know.
Yeah. They
came in that sliding door in the backyard. And so when we were designing this, we didn't want the formal room. I wanted the card table in the kitchen.
Yeah.
The front door is supposed to be over there. It's clearly not. This is the backyard.
Yeah.
And you come in the sliding doors in the kitchen, and we welcome you into the kitchen.
I was going to say, it feels, I had that experience when I was walking in here. I felt like I was walking into a home. And I know that's a really cheesy thing to say.
But that was the goal.
But it's by design, and you've really achieved that. And it's not in a like restoration hardware kind of way where you walk in, it's like all staged sets. It feels lived in.
It's not
bright.
Pretentious.
Yeah.
It's not, and I want you to sit at that table and with whoever you're sitting with, and within 5 minutes or less, hopefully by the time you come in the kitchen, you smile.
Yeah.
And you're not afraid to like have sneakers on and crack a joke.
So you're allowed to wear sneakers here?
I mean, we had a guy the other day in like a wife beater and shorts and a hat. And frankly, like if you want to book a table and come in, great, please, by all means. Because it's not about that.
Yeah.
Right? It's about the evening that you want to have, and how are you going to feel as good as you can and as comfortable as you can. Like, don't show up in a bathrobe or board shorts, ideally, but,
Don't be a dick, basically.
Yeah, but frankly, like, we're in LA, and a pair of sweatpants costs more than, like, a suit half the time. So,
true that. I've had to buy my wife stuff at Aloe. I get it.
Yeah, right? So, yeah, that's the goal with this.
What about the food? How is it different from what you've done before?
Oh my God, it's so different. It's so product focused. We have a course that we try to manipulate as little as possible, and the idea is that it's a salad essentially with like a sweetbread and a buttermilk emulsion hidden under it. It looks just like a bowl of greens, but the whole idea is, you look at greats like Michel Bras and how he's had his salad course forever, and chefs like Andoni at Mugarit's have done homages to this, and everyone has a version of that. But the thing that we really wanted to do here, moving to LA, was embrace the produce. And so the idea behind this course is not to, punch perfect circles out of leaves. It's to find the moment where nature presents itself in a perfect manner.
Yeah.
And how do you accept that perfection and not hurt it?
Yeah.
And so every morning we pick the greens for the salad, and we work with a couple of gardens, and we go, myself or one or two of the cooks, and it changed every day. One day they just mowed over all the mustard, and we didn't have mustard greens anymore. But it's everything that grows there is wild, local, native produce. So if there's radish greens and flowers growing wild in Malibu, they're also at the gardens. And the idea was basically, instead of going out and foraging everything wild off the side of the road where it might not be as edible as you want it to be, we just have good soil that's growing up. So that's become almost this moment of a course that started becoming the storyline. I want to hide some of the tricks in there a little bit, but I also want to embrace the fact that we're somewhere. Like, this restaurant exists outside these walls. It's a reflection of what you see here.
I haven't eaten here yet, but based on just the design and the ethos, I think you're off to a great start. I gotta ask, you're obviously super early on in your life as a restaurant. You know, you talked about the year 1, year 2, year 3, and the progression that happens. You know, I couldn't help but notice that you've got a ton of positive reviews about Celine.
Yeah.
You've also been added to the Michelin Guide.
Yeah, we missed out on the star this year, but
Well, I was going to
hopefully.
ask you about that, right? Because I also understand that, I don't know if it's in the wall of this kitchen or in the wall of the Pajoli kitchen, you've got printed out like a meme from the Michael Jordan documentary.
It's on the wall of this kitchen.
Is it on this one?
Yeah.
Where it's the one where he says, and I took that personally.
Yeah.
Is that star related?
Yeah, 100%. My beverage director printed out a piece of paper and put it up, and really embraced that moment. I mean, it's not. It's pretty apparent that I've had like a roller coaster relationship with Michelin. You know, next we couldn't earn a star, and they publicly came out over and over again and were like, "We'll never give Next a star. It changes too much." And that was always, every year, it was a little bit of a twisted dagger because I knew the work we were putting in.
Yeah.
And I knew how good it was. Like, it was re-reviewed every menu as a new restaurant.
Right.
And only 2 of the 15 menus that I did got 3 stars instead of 4 in the Tribune. And, you know, it was always on every list of whatever. And I was like, you know what, I don't understand this. And then the year that I left, they got a star. I was like, I don't know if it was better or worse. I have to believe it, you know, it's all been a collection of the same thing. But that was like bittersweet, right? Because you want to celebrate it, but you're also heartbroken by it. And then you see other restaurants and you're like, how did that get that?
Totally.
And you know, I believe that we don't know, like I don't talk to them, you can't control anything. And so I'll never look at a restaurant and be like, I don't think you deserve that. Rising tides raise all ships.
Of course.
So if the coffee shop across the street gets a Michelin star, it's good for this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whether I think that coffee shop should have one or not, it's good. And it's good for everyone.
I'll say it right now. If Narwhal gets a fucking star, I'm out.
Yeah, it'll be confusing, but I will still celebrate the fact that it happened.
Yeah.
Because it's good for everyone. You don't get a review or feedback or anything from them. When we saw the write-up and that we were added to the guide, I assumed that we'd get at least one.
Yeah.
Timing-wise, I know they ate within a couple weeks after the fires, and I know how chaotic it was here. It's been challenging because we saw a very drastic shift in reservations the day after the announcements came out, which have not led to a positive outlook for us. But, you know, we're pushing along. We're doing the best we can with it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you know, it's you can't look back at it with frustration or anger and say like, hey, that was unfair. Like, I don't know, maybe they ate 9 times.
I
have no idea. So.
If anything, that makes me want to eat here more because knowing you from this conversation, I can only imagine what the fuck is happening in this kitchen now. You know, in order to like that, and I took that personally ethos.
Yeah.
You exude that, my friend.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to eat here, and
I mean, the menu we have now that's going to run. We're going to run it through September with minor tweaks because we're feeling really good about the produce and longevity of it right now and the structure of the kitchen. And then it's a cool menu.
Yeah.
And then in October, I really want the menu to feel like a caricature of autumn.
yeah,
You
that's
know?
awesome.
So like, if you find one leaf outside, I want you to feel like there's 1,000 leaves inside.
yeah,
And both menus will be, I mean, this menu right now is great. It's very cool. And there's a lot of things on it there's a couple dishes on it that started as something, like when we did the Alinea dinner, there was this dish I used to have to prep at Alinea that was this raw venison packed in a savory granola, and we cooked it inside that and served it with celery root puree. It was a cool dish. It was like hit or miss because we never cooked the venison right. I don't know why we didn't sous vide. It was like the only thing we didn't sous vide. But that dish always stuck with me. I think Atkins had forgotten about it when I told him. But we do a venison tartare here now that's like, it started as a steak tartare with celery root, and I switched it to venison because of the flavors for the Alinea dinner, and now it comes in 4 parts.
Wow.
And it has just been this extrapolation of a concept that really was reactionary to how positive guests were towards that single dish, to say like, okay, let's add a pre-bite to that. Okay, let's use, I hate wasting things. Like, our product is really nice and someone grew it.
Yeah.
And so we do the roasted celery, we save all the trim from it, and we make an ice cream, and we follow the dish with the ice cream from it. And, this place is really special. And, you come in every day and you look around, and I feel really good when I walk around here. Set up my little cutting board and taste the food, and I'm really excited about what we're doing here now. I don't think we could have opened with the menu that we're doing. I think we would have tanked miserably.
Yeah.
It's been a great growth period. And so this one and the next one I'm super excited about.
Well, that makes two of us, Chef. You've been so generous with your time.
Of course.
I'm sorry that I've taken up literally half of your day.
No, I've been here all day, so I'm just going to go back into it when we're done.
Well, final question that we ask all our guests. What are 3 LA restaurants you're loving right now?
Oh my God, everyone always asks me this, and I have the saddest responses.
We've gotten some pretty sad responses on this podcast.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to preface why my responses are fairly sad. I have a daughter who will be 3 in a couple weeks, and I have a son who will be 1 in a week.
Okay.
And 2 restaurants, 1 in its infancy. So I don't really get out much. I don't know if I have a good answer for you. I know I have a list of places I want to go.
Yeah.
But
why don't you give us just the three places you eat the most then?
Okay, well, there's this Mexican restaurant down the street called Lula.
One of my wife's favorites.
Lula Mexican Cocina,
Yeah.
right over here. My daughter has been going there since she was basically born. And about 9 months ago, they had mariachis walking through. And now every time she's there, she asks Chuck, who's the general manager, where the mariachis are. She always watches Coco while we're there. The nachos are good. The margaritas are like rocket fuel, so be careful.
Yeah, I've had a few nights fueled by those margaritas.
Yeah, if you have 3, you may not come back from it. I went to Clark Street Diner the other day. That was great. I'm a big breakfast person.
I love that spot.
Yeah, breakfasts with the kids are a big one. So that was great. And somehow I keep ending up at Musso and Frank's with my wife.
So does half of Los Angeles, it seems.
I don't know. That's the only restaurant I've ever seen that has like 400 seats that can fill it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, hey, those are great answers.
yeah, but I mean, I have a long list of places I need to go. I just time.
Time.
It's the one thing you
speaking
can't
of
buy.
time- I was going to say, speaking of time, thank you for yours, Chef.
Of course, it was an honor.
Honor was all ours. Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to our guests, Dave Beran and Karen Palmer, for making the time for us. We'll be back next week with another epic episode. If you like what you heard here today, dear listener, please go leave us a review or rating wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're looking for me before our next episode drops, you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube, even our website at the LA Countdown. You can also find us on Instagram at It's Acquired Taste or at acquiredtastemedia.com.